Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto used Charmander start Pokémon journey. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WINDSTORM16, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto. Come on, you have to get up or you're going to be late, said Kushina Namikaze as she knocked on her son's before going into his room, only to see he's still asleep, making the woman sigh. Going over to his bed, Kushina began shaking him gently, wanting to make sure he got up on time, given that today was the day he'd be getting his starter Pokémon. Something she knew he wouldn't want to miss at all. Naruto, it's time to wake up, otherwise you'll be missing your chance to get a Pokémon. You don't want that to happen, do you? Kushina said, smirking when Naruto instantly shot up from his bed. I'm awake. I'm not going to be late, Naruto said as he quickly got out of bed, making his mother laugh at the sight of him scrambling to get ready as she headed for the door. Make sure to get showered and dressed, you wouldn't want to end up heading out in just your pajamas, Kushina said teasingly as she went downstairs to finish making breakfast. While Naruto quickly went to his bathroom where he showered and brushed his teeth before going back to his room and getting dressed. Once he was done, Naruto looked at himself in the mirror to make sure he was ready to head out. Naruto was a 13-year-old boy with lightly tanned skin, bright spiky blonde hair, ocean blue eyes, and 3 unique whisker marks on his cheeks. With his attire consisting of a burnt orange shirt, a black hood vest with red trimming, black jeans with dark blue lines going down the sides, and short black boots with 2-inch heels and burnt orange soles. Nodding to himself at seeing he's ready, Naruto headed downstairs, where he saw his mother finishing with breakfast, along with his father, Minato Namikaze, sitting at the table reading the newspaper. Though Naruto usually preferred using his mother's maiden name, Uzumaki, feeling it rolled off the tongue better. Morning, Mom, Dad, said Naruto, smiling at his parents, which they returned. I'm glad to see you're awake, we were worried you might end up sleeping in. Are you excited to finally get your first Pokémon? Minato asked, though already knowing the answer given the whiskered blonde had been waiting for the day since he turned 13. Definitely. I'm actually going to head to the lab right now, Naruto replied while grabbing a piece of toast. Don't even think about it. You still have time to get there, right now you're going to sit down and eat breakfast. I'm not having you go out on an empty stomach, said Kushina as she gave her son a look, refusing to let him leave until he eats. Fine, I'll go after. Bye Mom, bye Dad. I'll see you once I have my Pokémon, Naruto said, moving to sit down only to quickly run out the door while placing the piece of toast that he grabbed in his mouth, much to the retarded's annoyance. Naruto Uzumaki. Get back here, right now, Kushina said, going to the door before sighing in annoyance at seeing him simply wave at her as he ran to Professor Oak's lab. While Minato couldn't help but chuckle at the interaction between his wife and son, knowing it wasn't anything new, before he instantly fell silent at the look Kushina was giving him. But Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto ran through Pallet Town, noticing how the sun wasn't even up yet, though knew that other potential trainers could already be at the lab. Still can't believe I had to wait 3 more years to get a Pokémon, thought Naruto, having hoped to get his starter when he turned 10. With it originally being that people could apply to Pokémon license to become a trainer when they turned 10 years old. But due to an incident that happened a couple years ago, the age requirement was raised to 13, allowing kids to be better prepared to face everything they'll experience on their journeys. Shaking his head, Naruto continued on his way, with it not taking long before he arrived at Professor Oak's lab, finding 2 other 13-year-olds already there. The first is another boy with messy auburn hair, fair skin, and dark Viridian eyes that looked black in certain lighting. With his attire consisting of a long-sleeved purple shirt, a black necklace with a gold bead, dark blue pants, and brown boots. And the second was a girl with slightly messy dark brown hair that goes down to her lower back, fair skin, and pale brownish-green eyes. With her wearing a sleeveless light blue shirt with a bit of black, a short pinkish-red skirt, loose light blue socks, white shoes with a pinkish-red stripe in the middle, a white bucket hat with a pinkish-red Pokeball logo and black wristbands. Along with carrying a bright yellow messenger bag. These 2 were Gary Oak and Leaf Green, 2 of Naruto's childhood friends. Though things didn't really last after Gary began developing an ego, souring their friendship. With it being especially heated between Gary and their other childhood friend, Ash Ketchum. The 2 having developed their own rivalry as a result. Hey Leaf, Gary, Naruto said, waving at the 2, which Leaf returned with a smile while Gary smirked. Well, if it isn't Naruto boy, here I was expecting you to not make it in time. But it looks like Ashy boy isn't going to be showing up, said Gary, not seeing any sign of Ash, making the Uzumaki frown as he looked around. Where is Ash, anyway? Asked Naruto, having thought that out of all of them, Ash would be the first to arrive to get a Pokémon. We don't know, Gary arrived before I did and I didn't see any sign of him on my way here. But maybe he'll show up soon. Leaf replied, with Naruto nodding slowly before the three began waiting for the lab to open up. With it not being long before two people came out of the lab, who the three potential trainers recognized as Professor Oak, Gary's grandfather, and Daisy Oak, Gary's older sister. Professor Oak is a middle-aged man with peach skin, gray hair, and thick bushy eyebrows. He was wearing a white lab coat, a light maroon polo shirt, a brown belt, and beige pants, and matching brown loafers. While Daisy is a 16-year-old girl with long brownish blonde hair that went down past her shoulders and was slightly spiky on top of her head, fair skin, and viridian green eyes. With her attire consisting of a white long-sleeved shirt, a sleeveless forest green dress that stopped just above her knees, green shoes, and a white lab coat. "Daisy? What are you doing here?" Gary said, not expecting to see his sister here, while Daisy smiled at her brother, Naruto, and Leaf. "You didn't think I'd miss my little brother getting his first Pokémon, did you? Also, I recently became Grandpa's lab assistant," replied Daisy, with Professor Oak nodding in agreement while smiling at his granddaughter. "That's right, I've been needing some help around the lab, especially with the new starters having arrived. It's good to have an extra pair of hands around. And I'm glad to see that you three are all here, though where's Ash?" questioned Oak as he looked around for where Ash could be, with Naruto and Leaf frowning as they still didn't see any sign of him. "He wasn't here when I arrived and we still haven't seen him at all. He's probably still at home," Naruto said, guessing that's the only place he could be if he wasn't here. Well, let's all head inside and I'll call Delia to see what's taking him," Oak said before motioning them all to follow him and Daisy up to the lab. Once they were inside, Professor Oak went over to the video phone and called Delia to see what was keeping Ash. "What do you think is keeping him?" Naruto said, looking at Leaf and Gary. "Maybe he's just over-preparing or something. Ms. Ketchum could also be making sure he doesn't forget anything," replied Leaf with a shrug, knowing Delia could be rather overprotective and would want to make sure Ash was extra prepared for his journey. "I bet he did something stupid," Gary stated with a smirk, only to yelp when Daisy hit him on the back of the head while giving him a scolding look. Before they saw Professor Oak suddenly faceap him before ending the call and turned back to them. It would seem that Ash had broke his alarm clock in his sleep, again, and Delia's unable to get him to wake up. Oak revealed, much to Naruto's and Leaf's annoyance, while Gary laughed in amusement that he was right. "You'd think he'd have learned after he did it the first time," muttered Leaf, not believing Ash broke his clock again, remembering when he did the same thing during one of Professor Oak's Pokémon summer camps. "Clearly he didn't if he keeps getting the exact same alarm clock," Naruto said, both of them also feeling rather annoyed and kind of embarrassed with how Ash didn't seem to learn his lesson. "Well, there isn't anything we can do, as I can't delay handing out the starters until Ash finally arrives. But I'm sure I might still have some Pokémon here for when he does finally wake up. So, let's begin," Oak said before nodding to Daisy, the older teen girl motioning to a machine with a glass dome over it and 3 Pokeballs inside with the dome opening up. "Alright. Gary, Leaf, and Naruto, inside these 3 Pokeballs are the starters you can choose from. We have Squirtle the Water-type Pokémon, Bulbasaur the Grass-type Pokémon, and finally Charmander the Fire-type Pokémon. Each of you may pick one of them," explained Daisy, with 3 looking eager at getting to choose their own Pokémon. "I already know the one I'm getting. Let's go, Squirtle," Gary said, grabbing Squirtle's Pokeball and releasing the Pokémon. Squirtle resembled a light blue turtle. It has large, purplish, or reddish eyes and a slightly hooked upper lip. Each of its hands and feet have 3 pointed digits. The end of its long tail curls inward. Its body is encased by a tough shell. This shell is brown on the top, pale yellow on the bottom, and has a thick white ridge between the 2 halves. "Ready to show everyone what we can do, partner?" Gary asked, looking at the water-type Pokémon. Squirtle nodded and smiled at his new trainer, eager for the chance to start battling. "I choose Bulbasaur," said Leaf eagerly, grabbing Bulbasaur's Pokeball and releasing them. Bulbasaur is a small quadruped Pokémon that has blue-green skin with darker patches. It has red eyes with white pupils, pointed, ear-like structures on top of its head, and a short blunt snout with a wide mouth. A pair of small pointed teeth are visible in the upper jaw when its mouth is open. Each of its thick legs ended with 3 sharp claws. On its back is a green plant bulb. "Oh, you're even cuter in person. We're gonna be the greatest team ever," Leaf cooed while picking Bulbasaur up and hugging her. Bulbasaur." Bulbasaur smiled at her new trainer's affection and nodded in agreement that they'll be a great team. "That leaves Charmander, just the one I wanted," Naruto said with a smile, having been hoping to get this starter as he grabbed Charmander's Pokeball and released the fire type. Charmander is a bipedal reptilian Pokémon with a primarily orange body and blue eyes. Its underside from the chest down and the soles of its feet are cream-colored. It has 2 small fangs visible in its upper jaw and 2 smaller fangs in its lower jaw. Along with a long, slender tail with a burning flame at the tip. Charmander looked up at his new trainer while Naruto smiled at him. "Hey Charmander, it's really great to meet you. I hope we can be friends and an awesome team," said Naruto, making Charmander smile. Charmander nodded in agreement while holding his fist up. "Good choices, all 3 of you. I'm sure all of you will go on to be amazing trainers, seeing and catching many new Pokémon. And to help with that, here are your Pokédexes and some Pokeballs to get you all started," said Professor Oak, handing each of them their Pokédexes and 5 Pokeballs each. With the 3 new trainers taking the items before scanning their starters. Squirtle, the tiny turtle Pokémon. During battle, Squirtle hides in its shell that sprays water at its opponent whenever it can. Squirtle. Gender. Male. Ability. Torrent. Moveset. Water gun, withdraw, rapid spin, bite. Egg moves, locked. Mud sport, Aquajet, Aquaring, Dragon Pulse, Haze. Bulbasaur, the seed Pokémon. A young Bulbasaur uses the nutrients from its seed for the energy it needs to grow. Bulbasaur. Gender. Female. Ability. Overgrow. Moveset. Vine Whip, Growth, Leech Seed, Razor Leaf. Egg moves, locked. Ingrain, Curse, Amnesia, Grassy Terrain, Petal Dance. Charmander, the lizard Pokémon. When the tip of Charmander's tail burns brightly, that indicates it's in good health. Charmander. Gender. Male. Ability. Blaze. Moveset. Ember, Metal Claw, Growl, Smokescreen. Egg moves, locked. Ancient Power, Dragon Dance, Dragon Pulse, Dragon Rush, Outrage. "Nice moves, you'll definitely be powerful once we get started on training," Naruto said while smiling at his starter, pleased at the moves he knew. "Well, why not get started right now? I'm sure me and Bulbasaur would be more than a challenge for you too," said Leaf with a smirk, eager for the chance to have a battle. "Soar." Bulbasaur nodded in agreement with a determined look on her face. Charmander narrowed his eyes at the seed Pokémon, ready for a battle. "You're on then. You want to battle too, Gary?" Naruto asked while looking at him, with Gary smirking and crossing his arms. "I'll let you 2 battle first. I already know Squirtle and I can take either of you on, at least if I battle the winner, we'll get a decently challenge," Gary said, confident in his own starter's abilities. Squirtle. Squirtle crossed his arms and nodded in agreement with his trainer. "Fine, but that just means you won't have any excuses when I beat you," Naruto said with a smirk before the 3 went outside with their Pokémon as Oak and Daisy followed them out to see how they battle. Naruto and Leaf stood across from each other with Charmander and Bulbasaur in front of them, ready to begin whenever their trainers start. "Okay. Bulbasaur use Growth," Leaf said, knowing they'll need to play it safe a little first since Naruto had the type advantage. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur was surrounded by a green aura as her attack power went up. "Not so fast, Charmander use Growl," said Naruto. Charmander let out a loud piercing cry, making Bulbasaur flinch as her attack went back down. "Now use Ember," Naruto said. Charmander. Charmander. Charmander then quickly began unleashing bolts of fire at Bulbasaur. "Quick, Bulbasaur use Razor Leaf to stop the fireballs," said Leaf, with Bulbasaur throwing her body to her sides, causing razor-sharp leaves to shoot out of the bottom of her bulb. The leaves flying forward and impacting the fireballs, stopping them from reaching the grass poison-type Pokémon. "Now use Vine Whip and grab Charmander," Leaf said. Bulbasaur unleashed 2 vines from the sides of her bulb, with the vines launching forward and grabbing Charmander, lifting him into the air. "Alright. Now use Growth again and then Razor Leaf," said Leaf, with Bulbasaur letting out a cry as she was surrounded by a green aura, boosting her attack power. "Use Smokescreen, Charmander," Naruto said, causing Charmander to unleash a thick cloud of black smoke at Bulbasaur. "Soar." Bulbasaur didn't let the smoke deter her as she unleashed several stronger razor-sharp leaves at the lizard Pokémon. "Now use Metal Claws to cut the vines and then attack Bulbasaur," said Naruto. Charmander's claws glowed white before he slashed the vines, freeing himself and dropping to the ground, avoiding the Razor Leaf as well. Before the fire type then rushed into the smoke and swung his claws at Bulbasaur, succeeding in hitting her. Bulbasaur let out a cry as she was thrown out of the smoke cloud, skidding across the ground. "Are you alright, Bulbasaur?" Leaf asked in concern, with Bulbasaur slowly getting back up and shaking off the damage. Bulbasaur nodded at her trainer, still ready to keep battling. "Okay, then use Razor Leaf again," said Leaf. Bulbasaur nodded as she launched more leaves at Charmander. "Burn the leaves with Ember, then get in close and use Metal Claw again," Naruto said. Charmander shot more fireballs that incinerated the leaves before his claws glowed again and rushed towards Bulbasaur, the sight making Leaf smirk. "Now use Leech Seed, Bulbasaur," Leaf said, the Uzumaki's eyes widening at this. "Soar." Bulbasaur shot a seed out of her bulb straight at Charmander, the fire type not being able to dodge. "Quick, Charmander, use Ember to destroy the seed," said Naruto, knowing those vines needed to be destroyed before they drained all of Charmander's energy. But Charmander responding immediately by launching a wave of small fireballs at the seed, incinerating it. "Not so fast. Bulbasaur, use Vine Whip, then use Leech Seed again," said Leaf, with Bulbasaur's vines coming out and binding Charmander. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur then launched another seed at Charmander, this time succeeding in ensnaring him in vines and draining more of his energy. "Charmander." Charmander grunted as more energy was leaving him while he struggled to break the vines. "Charmander, use Growl now," said Naruto, thinking of a way to keep Bulbasaur from attacking for a while. Char. Charmander let out a loud piercing cry, causing Bulbasaur to flinch as her attack went back down. "Now use Ember and then Smokescreen," Naruto said, with Charmander shooting fireballs at Bulbasaur, the seed Pokémon unable to dodge due to the growl disorienting her. Bulbasaur cried as she was thrown back by the fireballs before then being enveloped in a thick cloud of smoke, blocking her view of everything. "Bulbasaur," said Leaf in worry for her starter. "Okay, now use Metal Claw to cut those vines," said Naruto. Charmander. Charmander's claws glowed white before he sliced through the vines, relieved that the energy draining was gone. "Now get in close to use Ember," Naruto said, with Charmander charging towards Bulbasaur. "Keep him back with Vine Whip, Bulbasaur," said Leaf, while Bulbasaur recovered from the previous hits and launched her vines at the lizard Pokémon. "Slice the vines with Metal Claw," said Naruto. Charmander's claws glowed as he began slicing the vines and continued towards Bulbasaur. Once Charmander was close enough, he jumped into the air above the vines and held his head back. Charmander. Charmander then unleashed several fireballs straight at Bulbasaur. "Bulbasaur, use Razor Leaf," Leaf said. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur launched multiple leaves at Charmander, with both their attack flying past each other. Before both Pokémon cried out as they were hit by the other's attack, with Charmander falling back to the ground and Bulbasaur skidding backwards. "Charmander, Bulbasaur," Naruto and Leaf said as they looked at their starters, concerned on if they'd be able to keep going. Charmander. Charmander slowly stood up, panting slightly from the attack. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur tried standing up as well, only to fall to the ground with swirls in her eyes, making Leaf sigh while Naruto cheered. "Alright. Way to go, Charmander," said Naruto, grinning at the fire type, which Charmander returned happy to have won their first battle. "You did amazing, Bulbasaur," said Leaf, going over and picking her starter up while smiling at her. "Soar." Bulbasaur looked down in disappointment, sad that she lost the battle, before Leaf patted her on the head. "Don't worry, we'll do better next time," Leaf said, smiling at the seed Pokémon, making Bulbasaur smile and nod in agreement. "So you managed to beat a Pokémon you had the advantage against. Let's see how you handle one that has the advantage against you," said Gary with a smirk as he and Squirtle stepped forward to battle next, only for Daisy to stop him. "Not yet, you don't. Charmander and Bulbasaur both need to rest and be healed first," Daisy said, going over and using some potions on Charmander and Bulbasaur, helping them feel much better. "You ready for another battle, Charmander?" Naruto asked, looking at his starter. Charmander nodded in response, feeling much better after the potions were used. "Alright, let's go, Squirtle," said Gary as he and Squirtle took Leaf's and Bulbasaur's place across from the Uzumaki and fire type. "Squirtle." Squirtle narrowed his eyes in determination, eager to show his strength. "Okay, use Growl, Charmander," Naruto said, knowing they were now at a disadvantage, both against a water type and that Gary's now seen them battle. Charmander let out a piercing cry, making Squirtle flinch as his attack went down. "Now follow up with Metal Claw," said Naruto, with Charmander rushing forward as his claws glowed white. "Squirtle, use Withdraw now," Gary said. Squirt. Squirtle quickly pulled his head, limbs and tail into his shell, which glowed blue as he boosted his defensive strength. But Charmander slashing his claws across Squirtle's shell, trying to force the tiny turtle Pokémon to come out. "Charmander, get back and try using Ember," Naruto said, not wanting Charmander to tire himself. "Not so fast. Now hit him with Rapid Spin," said Gary with a smirk. Squirtle suddenly began spinning around in his shell, striking Charmander and knocking him back before he moved towards the lizard Pokémon to continue his attack. "Use Smokescreen to blind Squirtle," said Naruto. Charmander unleashed a cloud of smoke at Squirtle, blocking his view of where he was going, as the water type simply continued to move forward in a straight line. "Now use Growl again," Naruto said. Charmander let out another piercing cry, causing Squirtle's shell to stop before he involuntarily came out of his shell to cover his ears. Use Ember, Charmander, said Naruto, seeing their chance to attack. Charmander. Charmander roared as he unleashed several fireballs at Squirtle. Bad move to use against Squirtle. Douse that fire with water gun, Gary said. Squirtle. Squirtle pulled his head back before shooting a spiral jet of water that instantly extinguished the fireballs before crashing right into Charmander, making the fire type cry out as he went crashing into a tree. Charmander. Naruto said in worry for his Pokémon. Next get in close with rapid spin, said Gary, with Squirtle pulling his limbs back into his shell before spinning around and rushing towards Charmander. Dodge it and use smokescreen, Charmander, said Naruto, the lizard Pokémon managing to jump out of the way of the spinning shell in time. Charmander then released a cloud of smoke around Squirtle, engulfing the water type. That's gonna help you. Squirtle use water gun again while you're spinning, Gary said. Squirtle. Squirtle continued spinning around before shooting jets of water out of all the holes in his shell. Get out of the way, Charmander, Naruto said, with Charmander moving to try to avoid the water jets. Charmander. Charmander let out a cry as one of the jets managed to hit him, sending the fire type skidding back. There he is, Squirtle. Now use rapid spin and keep shooting out water, said Gary, with Squirtle quickly spinning towards while still shooting water jets out of his shell, with Charmander unable to dodge the repeated water jets. Leading to Squirtle managing to get in close and strike Charmander repeatedly as he spun around, further damaging the lizard Pokémon. Alright, now use bite, Gary said. Squirtle. Squirtle shot out of his shell before biting down on Charmander's body. Charmander let out another cry as he tried throwing Squirtle off of him. Charmander use Metal Claw, now, said Naruto in concern at the damage Charmander's taken, but now seeing a chance for them to attack. Charmander gritted his teeth as his claws glowed white before he began rapidly striking Squirtle, the tiny turtle Pokémon grunting in pain at the strikes. With the effect of Metal Claw activating as few of the blows that Charmander landed grew stronger as his attack increased. Until finally Charmander gave a final slash that did enough damage to force Squirtle to let go of him. Way to go, Charmander. Now use Ember, Naruto said, wanting to keep up with the attack. Charmander. Charmander unleashed more fireballs at Squirtle, making the water type cry out as they impacted him and sending Squirtle flying back. Use Withdraw, Squirtle, said Gary, with Squirtle quickly retreating back into his shell as it glowed blue, protecting him from further damage. Use Ember, Charmander, and get in close, said Naruto, with Charmander doing so as he ran towards Squirtle while continuing to shoot fireballs at him. You want to get closer? Okay, Squirtle use rapid spin, Gary said, knowing how to end this battle. Squirtle instantly began spinning and charged towards Charmander, making the whiskered blonde's eyes widen. Dodge it quickly, Charmander, Naruto said, making Charmander stop his attack before jumping out of the way of the spinning shell, the sight making Gary smirk. Now use water gun, said Gary, once Squirtle was passing right by Charmander. Squirtle. Squirtle came to a stop before his head came out of his shell, shooting a spiral jet of water straight at Charmander. Charmander cried out as he was thrown back before crashing into a tree. Charmander, Naruto said, looking at his starter as Charmander fell to the ground and struggled to stand up. Charmander though fell back to the ground with swirls in his eyes, with Naruto sighing, while Gary smirked. Nice job, Squirtle, said Gary, pleased that his Pokémon won the battle. Squirtle smiled and raised his fist to his trainer, though still felt tired from the attacks Charmander hit him with. You did great, Charmander, said Naruto, going over and patting Charmander on the head. Charmander. Charmander looked down at having lost the battle. Hey, don't be sad, you already showed how strong you are and you'll keep getting stronger with training and more battles, Naruto said, smiling at the lizard Pokémon, making Charmander smile as well and nod in agreement. It's our turn, again, said Leaf as she and Bulbasaur took Naruto's and Charmander's place. Don't tell me you're that eager to lose again, Leafy girl, Gary said with a smirk. No, just eager to have us all tied up. Unless you're scared to face someone that'll have the type advantage against you, said Leaf tauntingly, making Gary scowl slightly. Okay, then bring it on, said Gary. Squirtle nodded in agreement, ready to have another victory. Not until Squirtle and Charmander both rest, Daisy said, stepping forward to heal Charmander and Squirtle. Oh come on, Daisy. Squirtle is perfectly fine, said Gary, only to fall silent at the look his sister gave him, with the older girl using more potions to heal the tiny turtle and lizard Pokémon. Once that was done, Leaf and Bulbasaur stared down Gary and Squirtle, the brunette eager for the chance to get a win now. Squirtle, let's start off with rapid spin, Gary said, deciding to take the first attack. Squirtle. Squirtle pulled his limbs into his shell before he started spinning and sped towards Bulbasaur. Use Vine Whip, Bulbasaur, said Leaf, with Bulbasaur's vines shooting forward, striking Squirtle's shell, knocking him off course. Stop spinning, Squirtle, and then use Water Gun, said Gary. Squirtle quickly came to a stop and emerged from his shell. Squirtle. Squirtle then shot a spiral jet of water at Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur dodged it, then used Growth and then Razor Leaf. Leaf said, making Bulbasaur jump out of the way of the jet of water. Soar. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur was then surrounded by a green aura boosting her attack power, before she then unleashed multiple leaves at Squirtle. Use Withdraw, Squirtle, Gary said, knowing those leaves would deal a lot of damage, while Squirtle entered his shell again as it glowed blue. With the Razor Leaf hitting his shell, throwing it back, but not damaging the water type as badly as it could have, while Leaf smirked. Now use Leech Seed, said Leaf, making Gary's eyes widen. Bulbasaur shot a seed out of her bulb towards Squirtle, impacting the tiny turtle Pokémon and ensnaring him in thin vines, which soon glowed red as they drained his energy. Squirtle, break those vines now, said Gary, with Squirtle emerging from his shell, only to be further tangled in the vines. Squirt. Squirtle. Squirtle struggled to break free of the vines as they drained his energy. I don't think so. Now use Razor Leaf, Bulbasaur, Leaf said with a smirk. Bulbasaur, Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur unleashed multiple leaves that all slammed into Squirtle, making him cry out as he was thrown back. Squirtle. Use Withdraw now and then Water Gun to break those vines, Gary said in concern at the damage being done to his starter. Squirt. Squirtle instantly retreated back into his shell as it glowed blue before shooting jets of water out the openings, which did succeed in breaking the Leech Seed vines around him. Now keep using Water Gun and combine it with Rapid Spin, said Gary, making Squirtle start spinning around towards Bulbasaur while shooting water out, the seed Pokémon being unable to dodge fast enough as she was hit by the water jets. Use Growth, Bulbasaur. Then use Vine Whip to grab Squirtle, Leaf said, with Bulbasaur letting out a cry as she was surrounded by a green aura boosting her attack power. Soar. Bulbasaur's vines then shot out and grabbed hold of Bulbasaur, stopping his spinning and lifting him into the air. Squirtle, use Bite on those vines, Gary said, with Squirtle's head coming out and biting down on the vines to snap them. Not so fast. Now slam Squirtle into the ground, Bulbasaur, said Leaf, Bulbasaur doing so before the water type could fully break the vines. Squirtle. Squirtle let out a cry as he was slammed into the ground, bouncing back up from the force of the impact. Next use Leech Seed, Leaf said, with Bulbasaur shooting a seed at Squirtle, with thin vines sprouting out and ensnaring before they glowed red and began draining his energy. And now Razor Leaf, said Leaf, believing that this will end the battle now. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur shot more leaves at Squirtle, slamming into the tiny turtle Pokémon and throwing him back into a tree. Squirtle, Gary said, looking at his starter as he fell to the ground before slowly standing up. Squirtle gritted his teeth as he stood, refusing to give up, only to soon collapse with swirls in his eyes from the damage and his energy being drained. Oh yeah. We did it, Bulbasaur, Leaf cheered with a grin, happy to have won a battle. Soar. Bulbasaur smiled along with her trainer, happy to have won her second battle. You did well, Squirtle, and we'll get them next time. But take a rest for now, said Gary, kneeling beside his starter and patting him on the head. Squirtle. Squirtle nodded at his trainer, disappointed at having lost, but determined that next time they'll be the winners. Well, I must say, you three are already showing plenty of promise as trainers. I'm sure you'll each grow even stronger on your travels, Oak said, smiling at the new trainers, while Daisy healed Squirtle and Bulbasaur. Just make sure none of you overdo it, you don't want your Pokémon or yourselves collapsing from exhaustion, added Daisy, not wanting them to overwork themselves or their Pokémon. Don't worry, we won't, Leaf said, with Naruto nodding in agreement as the three returned their Pokémon to their Pokeballs. Yeah. But we should get going now, I want to show my parents my new Pokémon, Naruto said, wanting to his parents to see Charmander. Same. I can't wait to show off Bulbasaur, said Leaf, smiling at the Pokeball. You two do that, I think I'm gonna stick around a little, Gary said with a smirk, wanting to stay and wait for Ash to eventually arrive and rub things in his face that they got starters, while he didn't. Naruto and Leaf rolled their eyes, fully knowing what Gary planned to do before they left the lab to return to their homes. I guess I'll see you next time we see each other, Leaf, Naruto said, the brunette nodding in agreement. Yep, and I hope you'll have gotten stronger when that time comes. 'Cause I don't intend to lose our next battle, replied Leaf with a smirk, which the Uzumaki returned. Then you better get a lot of training done if you want to beat me and Charmander, along with any other Pokémon I'll have caught by then, said Naruto before the two left to return to their homes. It wasn't long before Naruto returned home, only to gulp when he saw his mother looking at him with narrowed eyes, before she sighed. "You're lucky for what day it is. Otherwise, you'd be going up to your room right now," Kushina said, willing to let it slide how he skipped breakfast since he was getting his starter Pokémon, much to the whiskered blonde's relief. "So, which Pokémon did you pick out?" asked Minato, curious of which Pokémon Naruto picked. "See for yourself, come on out, Charmander," Naruto said, releasing Charmander. Charmander looked up at his trainer, not seeing any Pokémon they'd be battling, before he was lifted up by Kushina. "Oh, aren't you just the cutest little guy?" Kushina said, smiling at the lizard Pokémon. "A Charmander, huh? Then it looks you'll have a powerful Pokémon to help you on your journey," said Minato, smiling at seeing which starter he chose, knowing Charmander will grow into an incredibly powerful partner. "Yeah, me and Charmander are going to be the best team around. Right, buddy?" said Naruto, smiling and patting Charmander on the head. Charmander smiled and nodded in agreement with his trainer, while also enjoying the attention. "Well then it looks like it's really time, then. Here, I made sure to pack everything you'll need, spare clothes, swim trunks, toiletries, a tent, a sleeping bag, some food and water, along with what you'd need to cook, potions and Pokémon food, money, and everything else that might be useful," Kushina said, setting Charmander down before grabbing a dark orange backpack with black trimming and handed it to Naruto. "Thanks mom, and I promise that we'll be safe," said Naruto, with the Uzumaki smiling and hugging her son. "I know you will and I know you'll do great things on your journey," said Kushina before Minato stood up and pulled something out. "And to make sure you can call us whenever you can and so you don't get lost, we got you this," Minato said, the whiskered blonde being surprised before grinning at seeing it was an orange and blue Pokér, along with seeing it's the newest model. "The Pokér? Awesome, this'll definitely come in handy," said Naruto, knowing it'll be useful having a Pokér to tell time and have a map to know where he is and where he's going. "We already registered our numbers into it so you can call us whenever you want and tell us anything that's happened," Minato said, with Kushina nodding in agreement. "Once a week at the very least, or even every day just so we know you're alright," Kushina said, with Naruto smiling and nodding before hugging his parents. "Don't worry I will," replied Naruto, happy to have everything he'll need to start his journey. Later. After saying his goodbyes to his parents and leaving his home, Naruto had begun making his way down Route 1, excited to now be taking his first steps on his Pokémon journey. "The first city I should end up at is Viridian City and after that I'd go through Viridian Forest and come out at Pewter City. That's where I should have my first gym battle, but I should catch at least one other Pokémon before taking on any gyms," Naruto thought, wanting to have at least 2 Pokémon before battling a gym leader. Looking around Route 1, Naruto smiled slightly at seeing several Pokémon on the ground and in the air, recognizing them as Pidgey and Spearow flying through the sky or nesting in trees. Along with seeing packs of Rattatas and Sandshrews moving through the grass. "Well there are definitely a lot of different Pokémon between here and Pewter City, I'm sure I'll come across one I can catch," thought Naruto, wondering which Pokémon he even wanted to catch as his first capture. Neato. Huh. Naruto said, looking around at the sudden Pokémon cry he heard, not recognizing it from any Pokémon he's heard before. Curious of what Pokémon made the sound, the Uzumaki went in the direction it came from to see what Pokémon it was, before soon finding the Pokémon through the trees. It was a small quadrupedal rodent-like Pokémon. It was pinkish purple with darker patches. It has large spiny ears with teal insides, a horn on its forehead, oversized front teeth, and red eyes. Its back is covered with 3 lines of large spines. The center line of spines is taller than the other 2. "Oh. That's a Nidoran, a male one," Naruto thought, taking a moment to recognize the Pokémon as male Nidoran before pulling out his Pokédex and scanning him. Nidoran male, the poison pin Pokémon. Its large ears are flapped like wings when it is listening to distant sounds. It extends toxic barbs when angered. The whiskered blonde grinned at the poison pin Pokémon, seeing he just found the first Pokémon he wanted to catch. "Okay, let's do it Charmander," Naruto said, releasing the fire type, which got Nidoran's attention at the sudden voice. "Charmander." Charmander stood in front of his trainer before looking at Nidoran with narrowed eyes, seeing they'll be battling. Nidoran. Nidoran was surrounded by a blue aura as his gaze sharpened and focused on Charmander, before charging forward and thrusting his horn at the lizard Pokémon. "Dodge it Charmander and growl," Naruto said, with Charmander jumping out of the way of Nidoran's attack. Charmander then let out a piercing cry, causing Nidoran to flinch as his attack went down. "Now use Metal Claw," said Naruto. Charmander's claws glowed white before charging and slashing at Nidoran. "Neato." Nidoran let out a cry as he skidded across the ground before coming to a stop and narrowed his eyes. Nidoran's horn then glowed purple before shooting out multiple glowing purple darts towards Charmander. Dodge again, Charmander. Naruto said. The fire type jumped out of the way, only to cry out when some of the darts managed to hit him. Mander. Charmander grunted from the pain and the poison in the darts before seeing Nidoran charging at him. Nido ran Nidoran. Nidoran charged Charmander before leaping into the air and flipping twice, slamming his foot into Charmander's face, knocking him back. Charmander use Ember. Said Naruto, as Charmander skidded to a stop before turning towards Nidoran. Charmander. Charmander unleashed several fireballs towards Nidoran, with the poison-type Pokémon jumping around to avoid them. Now use Smokescreen. Naruto said, with Charmander quickly unleashing a cloud of black smoke that engulfed Nidoran. Nidoran looked around warily through the smoke, unable to see anything, before running forward to get out of the smoke, only to find himself running straight towards Charmander. And now hit him with Metal Claw. Said Naruto. Charmander's claws glowed white as he charged forward. Charmander slashed his claws at Nidoran, the poison pin Pokémon crying out from the hits. Nidoran. Nidoran gritted his teeth as he was surrounded by a blue aura and focused his gaze on Charmander before thrusting his horn forward, slamming it into the lizard Pokémon. But Charmander grunting as he was knocked back but remained standing only to see Nidoran jump into the air and flip again, thrusting his foot towards him. Use Smokescreen and dodge Charmander. Naruto said, with Charmander jumping out of the way and releasing a cloud of smoke at Nidoran. Now use Ember. Said Naruto. Charmander. Charmander began shooting fireballs into the smoke at where Nidoran had landed, managing to hit him when Nidoran cried out as he was thrown out of the smoke. Charmander use Growl, next. Naruto said, Charmander nodding before letting out a piercing cry, making Nidoran flinch as his attack went further down. Now get in close to use Metal Claw. Said Naruto. Charmander rushed forward as his claws glowed white, while Nidoran shakily stood up as a blue aura surrounded him and his focus sharpened. Nido ran Nidoran. Nidoran charged forward as well, aiming his horn at the fire type. Jump and dodge it, Charmander. Naruto said, with Charmander jumping into the air to avoid Nidoran's attack. Only to be surprised when Nidoran jumped as well, thrusting his horn straight into Charmander, making the lizard Pokémon cry out. With Nidoran crying out as well when Charmander managed to still slash him with his glowing claws. Both Pokémon being thrown back from the attack and crashing back into the ground. Are you alright, Charmander? Naruto asked, looking at his starter in concern. Charmander. Charmander nodded in response as he stood up, panting lightly. Then Nidoran. Nidoran also began standing up and panting, determined to keep battling. Oh no, you don't. Go Pokeball. Said Naruto, knowing this was his chance to try catching Nidoran as he threw a Pokeball. The Pokeball bounced off of Nidoran's head before opening up and sucking him inside, with Naruto watching to see if it'd be caught, along with Charmander to see if the battle would continue. Watching the Pokeball shake a few times until finally, it let off a ping showing it was a successful capture, making the whiskered blonde grin. Alright. I caught a Nidoran. Naruto cheered, picking the Pokeball up, happy at having caught his first Pokémon. Charmander. Charmander jumped up, also happy to have won another battle, and helped his trainer catch a new Pokémon. Okay, come on out, Nidoran. Said Naruto, releasing Nidoran to meet his new Pokémon. Nidoran looked up at his new trainer, while Naruto smiled at him. It's nice to meet you, Nidoran, and we're glad to have you joining the team. Naruto said, making the poison-type Pokémon tilt his head. Charmander. Charmander smiled at Nidoran and held out his hand towards him. Nido ran Nidoran. Nidoran nodded and held his front leg up to shake Charmander's hand, making Naruto's smile widen. Well, I think now might be a good time to rest so you both can recover and then after that we can start getting some training done. What do you think? Said Naruto, looking at his Pokémon. Charmander. Charmander nodded in agreement, eager to get started on training and getting stronger. Nidoran nodded as well, wanting to grow stronger after seeing how good the lizard Pokémon already was. Great. Then let's get started. But first, Naruto said, happy to see both of them are eager to begin training, before pulling out his Pokédex to scan Nidoran again to check his stats. Nidoran male. Gender. Male. Ability. Hustle. Moveset. Double kick, focus energy, horn attack, poison sting. Uzumaki grinned at Nidoran's stats before putting his Pokédex away, pleased at starting out with a pretty good team so far. Later. After taking a moment to rest, Naruto began training Charmander and Nidoran, working on improving their strength, speed, and agility. Along with having them work on refining and mastering the moves they already know, while using his Pokédex to look into any moves he can teach Nidoran and Charmander. Especially the fire-type starter to give him some attacking moves other than Metal Claw and Ember. As for Charmander's egg moves, Naruto had him focus on unlocking Dragon Dance, as it would be a great move to boost Charmander's speed and power with. while also getting him familiar with channeling and utilizing draconic energy, given how the majority of his egg moves were dragon type, as well as feeling as though Dragon Dance would be the best egg move to start on, overall. Since he wanted to wait until Charmander was fully evolved before working on unlocking Dragon Pulse, Dragon Rush and Outrage, so he would be physically capable of handling that kind of raw power. As for Ancient Power, Naruto estimates that Charmander will have the power needed to unlock that move by the time he's evolved into a Charmeleon at the very least. The three of them eventually taking a break after a few hours of training, with Naruto then making them some lunch. Once they finished eating, he returned Charmander and Nidoran to their Pokeballs and continued on his way. It wasn't long before Naruto arrived at a river, with him stopping for a moment when he saw a girl his age fishing and a bike leaning against a nearby tree. The girl had short orange hair tied into a side ponytail with a blue elastic rubber band, wide green eyes, and fair skin. She was wearing a yellow tank top that reveals her midriff, red suspenders, denim shorts that stop at her thighs and red sneakers with yellow lining and white laces. Cool color. Naruto thought upon seeing the girl's orange hair before going up to her. "Hey." Naruto said, smiling and waving getting the girl's attention. "Oh, hi," said the girl, returning the wave while making sure to keep her attention on her fishing rod in case a Pokémon started biting. "Sorry to disturb you, I'm just on my way to Viridian City. Do you actually know any faster ways there?" questioned Naruto, with the girl smiling slightly. "It's fine. And do you have a map?" the girl asked. The whiskered blonde pulled out his Pokegear and went to Route 1 on the map. "Okay, we're here right now. So just go to this path and you should be to Viridian City in about an hour at the most," said the girl, pointing to the path that'll get him to Viridian the fastest. "Cool, thanks for the help. And good luck with your fishing," Naruto said, smiling and waving to the girl, which she returned. "No problem and thanks," the girl replied, turning back to the river while the Uzumaki continued on his way towards Viridian City. It wasn't long before Naruto arrived in Viridian City, with him heading straight for the Pokémon Center and being greeted by Nurse Joy once he walked in. With her also being accompanied by a Chansey. Chansey is a pink ovoid Pokémon with stubby arms and dark pink feet. It has tiny eyes and 3 hair-like growths on each side of its head. The tufts of hair have dark pink tips. On the center of its belly is a dark pink pouch that contains a single white egg. Finally, it has a short tail. With her also wearing a white nurse's cap with a pokeball on the front. "Hello there, young man. What can I do for you?" Nurse Joy asked with a smile as the Uzumaki walked up to the counter. "Hey Nurse Joy, I just wanted to get my Pokémon looked over and healed," replied Naruto, setting Charmander's and Nidoran's Pokeballs on the counters. "Of course. We'll have them back to you in no time," said Nurse Joy, taking the Pokeballs and setting them on a tray. "Chansey?" Chansey nodded in agreement with a smile before the two left to look over Charmander and Nidoran. Once they were out of sight, Naruto headed over to the video phones so he could call his parents and Professor Oak to let them know he's arrived in Viridian City. With him calling his parents first, not needing to wait long before his mother appeared on the screen. "Naruto. Minato," Naruto's calling, "come here. Are you alright? Did something happening? Where are you right now?" Kushina said, smiling happily at her son before having her husband come over, only to then start asking the whiskered blonde questions. "Everything's fine, Mom. I'm just calling to let you guys know that I'm currently in Viridian City," replied Naruto, surprising Kushina and Minato when he appeared. "You're already in Viridian City? You must have been moving quickly if you got there already. Did you catch any Pokémon on the way?" Minato asked, happy to hear he made it safely to Viridian City. "I just got some help from another trainer that showed me the quickest way here, so I was able to get here much sooner. And yeah, I was able to catch a new Pokémon. A Nidoran, actually, and a really strong one. I also got some training done with my Pokémon," Naruto said, making the two smile at hearing how things have been going so far. "That's really great, you've only just started and you already have 2 Pokémon," Kushina stated, with Minato nodding in agreement. "Your mother's right. If you keep it up like that, then pretty soon you'll have more Pokémon than you can have with you," added Minato, the whiskered blonde smirking at this. "Then it'll just mean I'll have to work even harder to train all the Pokémon I catch," said Naruto, hoping to catch a lot of Pokémon, but also make sure that each of them is trained to be their best and get show how far they'll grow in battle. "That's good to hear, no matter how many Pokémon you catch, you'll want to make sure you look after all of them and help them grow," Minato said, knowing his son will look after all the Pokémon he'll catch. "So after Viridian City, where will you be going next?" Kushina asked, wanting to know where his next destination will be and when they could next expect a call from him. "I'll be heading for Pewter City for my first gym battle and then after Pewter City, I'll be going to Cerulean City," Naruto replied, knowing those will good destinations to start with. Not only with how there are gyms in both cities, but also the route he'll take to them will have him pass through Viridian Forest and Mount Moon. Two locations that will be filled with all different kinds of Pokémon he could catch. Sounds like you have a good plan for what you'll be doing. Just make sure you don't get ahead of yourself, since you'll also be encountering plenty of other trainers that could be stronger than you and who knows what other kind of trouble," said Minato, not doubting that Naruto will run into a lot of trouble throughout his journey. "That's right, so make sure you be careful and don't go looking for trouble if you can avoid it," Kushina added, not wanting her son to end up getting hurt or worse. "I'll try, but trouble usually ends up finding me. Though I'll talk to you guys later since I still have to call Professor Oak," said Naruto, waving to his parents, which they returned before hanging up. Naruto then dialed Professor Oak's number and waited for him to pick up, not needing to wait long again before the Pokémon professor appeared. "Ah, Naruto. I didn't expect to hear from you so soon, but if you're calling then I take it you must have arrived in Viridian City already," Oak said with a smile, the whiskered blonde nodding in response. "That's right, Professor. I just got here and I'm currently at the Pokémon Center, having my team looked over. I was even able to catch a new Pokémon too before I arrived, and Nidoran," Naruto said, making Oak's smile widen. "That's wonderful to hear. You're certainly making good progress for the beginning of your journey," said Oak, making Naruto smile and nod in agreement. "Yeah, I'm also planning to head for Pewter City and challenge the gym there. And Professor, have you heard anything from Leaf yet?" questioned Naruto, wondering if Leaf set out already as well and if she took a different path than him. "Nothing yet. If I had to guess, I'd say Leaf is still on Route 1 looking for Pokémon and training. But I'm sure I'll be hearing from her soon enough," Oak replied, with Naruto nodding at this, figuring Leaf would take her time to training Bulbasaur some more and catching plenty of Pokémon. "Is Gary still at the lab or did he finally leave, too?" Naruto asked, only to get his answer when Oak sighed and shook his head. "He's still here, which means Ash still hasn't arrived yet, either. Though he should consider himself lucky, I did find one other Pokémon I could give him, otherwise he would have had to wait to get a starter," said Oak, having managed to find one Pokémon he could give to Ash once he finally arrived. "That's good at least, and hopefully he'll finally learn his lesson this time," stated Naruto, hoping that Ash would learn his lesson this time about breaking his clocks and sleeping in. "We can only hope. But I'm sure you'll be eager to start heading towards Pewter City, so I won't keep you any longer. Take care, Naruto," Oak said, waving to the Uzumaki, which Naruto returned. "Thanks, Professor Oak, and I'll be sure to call again if I find any new Pokémon or something else comes up," said Naruto before they hung up. Leaving the video phone, Naruto saw Nurse Joy coming towards him with his Pokeballs. "Here are your Pokémon, they just needed a quick rest, otherwise they're perfectly fine," said Nurse Joy, making the whiskered blonde smile as he grabbed them. "Thanks Nurse Joy," Naruto said, glad that he finished his calls just in time, with the Pincat returning the smile. "You're welcome, take care now," Nurse Joy replied as she returned to the counter for any other trainers that show up. While Naruto left the Pokémon Center to go shopping for some supplies, wanting to make sure he had everything he'd need, not knowing how long it'll take him to reach Pewter City. With Naruto also contemplating how he should train Charmander and Nidoran as he looked over the moves they could learn via his Pokédex. "Well, Nidoran's a poison type, so maybe I could see about having him learn moves like Poison Jab and Sludge Bomb. I think Nidoran's can also learn moves like Rain Dance and Sunny Day, those would really be good to learn with Sunny Day, boosting Charmander's fire attacks and Rain Dance to weaken any opponents who use fire attacks, along with boosting any water-type Pokémon I'll catch. Maybe ground attacks too, like Dig," Naruto thought, knowing Nidoran can learn plenty of different types of moves despite being a poison type, making him really versatile. As for Charmander, definitely some new fire attacks like Will-O-Wisp and Sunny Day, while also seeing about mastering Ember to develop it into Flamethrower and Fire Spin. Also, according to the Pokédex, Charmander can also learn Dragon Breath and Dragon Rage prior to evolving, if he's strong enough. While Metal Claw is a good coverage move against rock types and has a chance of boosting Charmander's attack power when it hits. That shouldn't be our only one, with Iron Tail and Brick Break seeming like two good attacks for Charmander to learn at the moment, thought Naruto, seeing as Charmander could also learn several different types of moves as well. The Uzumaki nodded to himself, knowing he'll have plenty of different moves to teach Charmander and Nidoran, several of which will definitely surprise opponents. And if I'm lucky, maybe I can find some TMs to help teach Charmander and Nidoran, along with any other Pokémon that I catch, some new moves far more quickly. With it helping that gyms provide them in addition to badges, so I'm guaranteed to at least get a few. Naruto thought as he made his way to the stores to fill up on supplies. Though part of Naruto also wondered if Ash would be getting up anytime soon back in Pallet Town or if he'd even end up sleeping through the entire day. With Ash. Meanwhile, Ash Ketchum woke up gasping in surprise. Ash is a skinny, slender boy with dark black hair with a cowlick and a narrow triangular and edgy tuft of hair in the middle of his forehead that comes to a point on the right side, slightly tanned skin, and brown eyes with two distinctive lightning bolt-like markings underneath each one. With him currently wearing his green and yellow pajamas. But Ash already feeling worried when he didn't hear his alarm clock going off, only to soon see the broken remains of it on the floor against the wall. I did it again. Ash thought, panicking that he broke his alarm clock again, before he noticed the sun had fully risen outside, making him panic even more. Oh no. What time is it? Said Ash as he scrambled out of bed, not even bothering to change into his regular clothes, only putting on his black and white sneakers. Before he quickly ran out of his room past his mother, Delia Ketchum, as she called after him from the kitchen. With Ash not stopping as he ran outside, worried and afraid that he might have lost his chance to get a Pokémon. Squirtle. Bulbasaur. Charmander. Anyone's fine, just please save one for me. Ash said, hoping that there'd be at least one starter left, not caring which it was, only that he was able to get one. Running towards the lab, Ash saw a crowd of people at the entrance, making him run faster and start pushing through the crowd, apologizing as he did so. Managing to reach the front, where he pushed through some cheerleaders. Sorry, excuse me said Ash as he pushed past them, only to end up running into someone and fall to the ground. Hey, watch where you're well if it isn't Ashy boy. About time you showed up, but you know what they say, you snooze you lose. And you, Ashy boy, are way behind right from the start, I've already got my Pokémon. Gary said with a smirk as Ash stood up and looked at him in surprise. You already have a Pokémon, Gary. Ash said, though felt hope when he didn't see anyone else, believing that meant at least two were left. That's right, and it's right here. But don't get your hopes up too quickly, Leaf and Naruto beat you here too, and they snagged the last two starters Gramps had. Gary revealed while spinning Squirtle's Pokeball on his fingertip, while Ash's expression fell that he lost his chance to get a Pokémon. Only to look up again when he heard Gary yelp, with Ash being surprised to see Professor Oak and Daisy, the latter giving her brother a stern look. What did we talk about, you taunting others? Said Daisy, looking at her brother. Oh come on. I was just telling the truth. We were able to get starter Pokémon because we woke up on time, and he didn't. Said Gary, only to flinch when Daisy flicked him. And you were enjoying it way too much. Daisy stated before she turned towards Ash and smiled at him, making him the boy blush, which made Daisy giggle at his expression. Aware that Ash had a major crush on her, something she found rather cute. I Daisy. What are you doing here? Ash asked, not expecting to see her here. I'm working as grandfather's assistant to help him around the lab. Replied Daisy, with Professor Oak nodding in agreement. That's right. And you have nothing to worry about, Ash. Well, Gary, Leaf, and Naruto all got the 3 starters. I do have one more Pokémon for you. Revealed Oak, making Ash look towards him in surprise and hope. Wow. You had another Pokémon, Gramps. Gary said, not expecting him to have a 4th Pokémon to give as a starter. I do, though it's also one that was only caught recently. So, unfortunately, it's still rather wild. Oak said, only for Ash to shake his head. I don't mind, Professor. I'll take any Pokémon you have. Said Ash, not minding if the Pokémon is still wild, as long as he's able to get one. If you're really sure, then follow us to the lab. Said Oak as he and Daisy headed up to the lab, with Ash and Gary following them, the latter wanting to see what kind of Pokémon was left. Entering the lab, the 4 went over to the machine that had the original 3 starters, with a compartment opening up in the middle. Revealing a 4th Pokeball with a lightning bolt on the front of it above the button. Now Ash, I really should warn you, this Pokémon is incredibly stubborn and rather volatile. You must be careful. Oak warned, wanting to make sure he's aware this isn't a tamed Pokémon yet. I'm really fine with whatever Pokémon it is, Professor. Ash said, refusing to be talked out of getting a Pokémon no matter which one it is. Alright, then here you go, Ash. Daisy said, grabbing the Pokeball and handing it to him. With Ash being excited that he'll finally have his very own Pokémon before the Pokeball opened up and the Pokémon inside came out. It was a short chubby rodent Pokémon. It was covered in yellow fur with 2 horizontal brown stripes on its back. It has a small mouth, long pointed ears with black tips, and brown eyes. Each cheek is a red circle. It has short forearms with 5 fingers on each paw and its feet each have 3 toes. At the base of its lightning bolt-shaped tail is a patch of brown fur. Pikachu. The Pokémon blinked as it looked around at its surroundings before settling on Ash in front of it. Its name is Pikachu, an electric-type Pokémon. Said Oak while Ash looked at his new Pokémon in amazement. Oh wow, it's so cute. This one's even better than the others. Said Ash before picking Pikachu up and hugging it, something Pikachu didn't like as its cheeks began sparking with electricity. Ash, you actually shouldn't, Daisy said in worry, knowing he shouldn't try hugging Pikachu like that. Pikachu. That Pikachu doesn't like being held. Said Daisy as Pikachu electrocuted Ash, making the boy cry out until Pikachu stopped, leaving the burned Ash standing in shock. I see what you mean. Ash muttered, not expecting to suddenly be electrocuted like that, while Gary laughed. Ahahahaha. Oh man, it was worth staying behind to see this. And you're right about one thing, Ashy boy, that Pokémon will definitely be better to have, I'm sure you'll have plenty of shocking good times. Hahahaha. Gary laughed, glad he decided to stick around if it meant he got to see this. Only to yelp when Daisy smacked him on the back of the head while Professor Oak held out some Pokeballs and a Pokédex for Ash. Well, now all that's left is to give you your Pokédex and some Pokeballs. Oak said, with Daisy holding out Pikachu's Pokeball. And here, maybe you should keep Pikachu in its Pokeball for the time being, just in case. Said Daisy, not wanting to have him be electrocuted again. Thank, yo ai. Ash said, only to cry out when Pikachu suddenly electrocuted him again, only this time Professor Oak and Daisy were also electrocuted due to their close proximity. Hey. You wanna shock Ash, then fine. But leave the geezer and Daisy out of it. Said Gary with a scowl, no longer amused at seeing his grandfather and sister being electrocuted as well. Gary's right, Pikachu. You can't just electrocute others like that. Said Ash, also unamused at what Pikachu just did. As it's one thing to electrocute him, it's another to electrocute his crush and a lifelong family friend. Of course I'm right. And now I'm gonna be putting that crazy rat in its place. Let's go, Squirtle. Said Gary, releasing Squirtle to take Pikachu down. Squirtle. Squirt 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 Squirtle. Squirtle stood in front of his trainer and looked at Pikachu, with Pikachu narrowing its eyes before jumping out of Ash's arms. Pikachu. Pikachu shot a bolt of lightning at Gary and Squirtle, with the two quickly running out of the lab. Wait, Pikachu. We need to battle together. Ash said, running after Pikachu when he followed Gary and Squirtle, scanning his starter with his Pokédex. Pikachu, the mouse Pokémon, and the evolved form of Pichu. Pikachu can help other Pikachu who are feeling weak by sharing its electric current. Pikachu. Gender. Male. Ability. Static. Moves. Thunder Shock, Agility, Quick Attack. Egg moves. Disarming Voice, Volt Tackle, Electric Terrain, Charge, Wish. Okay, let's do this, Pikachu. Use Quick Attack. Said Ash, only for Pikachu to ignore him. But Pikachu instead running on all fours and began leaping from side to side before he started repeatedly vanishing and appearing around Squirtle. The tiny turtle Pokémon looked around rapidly with wide eyes, trying to keep track of Pikachu's movements. Before Pikachu suddenly appeared behind Squirtle and charged at him. Jump into the air and dodge it, Squirtle. Then use Water Gun. Said Gary, with Squirtle jumping up into the air just in time to dodge Pikachu's quick attack. Squirtle. Squirtle then shot a spiral jet of water at the mouse Pokémon. Dodge it with agility, Pikachu. Ash said, with Pikachu once again ignoring him. Pikachu. Pikachu jumped to the side, dodging the water jet before launching a yellow bolt of lightning at Squirtle. Squirtle use Withdraw. Gary said, seeing the lightning heading towards his starter. Squirt. Squirtle instantly retreated into his shell as it glowed blue, just as the lightning bolt hit him. Seeing his attack was being blocked, Pikachu rushed towards Squirtle, moving at high speed, leaving behind a white streak behind him. Pika. Pikachu then jumped up into the air, slamming into Squirtle's shell, knocking the water type back into a tree, with Squirtle remaining inside his shell. Way to go, Pikachu. Now keep using Thunder Shock. Said Ash, knowing the constant electrocution would be able to force Squirtle out eventually, or knock him out. Only for Pikachu to instead run at Squirtle again, intent to keep hitting him until he came out of his shell, with Gary smirking as he waited until Pikachu was close enough. Now use Bite, Squirtle. Said Gary once Pikachu was close enough. No, Pikachu, dodge it quickly. Ash said, hoping that Pikachu would actually listen this time. With it being too late as Squirtle shot out of his shell and bit down on the electric type's body, making Pikachu cry out. Nice one, Squirtle. Now hit him with Water Gun. Gary said, with Squirtle releasing Pikachu before shooting a point-blank spiral blast of water that slammed into Pikachu. Pika. Pikachu let out a cry as the water jet slammed into him, launching him back into a tree. Pikachu. Are you alright? Said Ash, looking at his starter in concern, with Pikachu getting up and shaking his head before narrowing his eyes at the tiny turtle Pokémon. Next use Rapid Spin, Squirtle. Gary said. Squirtle. Squirtle pulled himself back into his shell before he began rapidly spinning around and rushed towards Pikachu. Use agility and dodge it, Pikachu. Please. Ash said, hoping that Pikachu would see they needed to work together. But once again, Pikachu ignored him and instead used Thunder Shock, firing a lightning bolt at Squirtle, with Gary narrowing his eyes before smirking as he got an idea. "Squirtle, turn on your side while you're spinning and use Withdraw," said Gary, with Squirtle jumping into the air and landing on his side while his shell began glowing blue. With Gary's smirk growing when the lightning bolt hit Squirtle, but rather than electrocute him, the increased defense from Withdraw and the rotation from Rapid Spin deflected it up into the air. "Now's your chance to attack Squirtle. Hit him with Rapid Spin," Gary said, seeing even Pikachu was surprised at his attack being deflected. But Squirtle rushing towards the mouse Pokémon and slammed into him, making Pikachu cry out from the rotating shell slamming into him. "Okay, finish it up with Water Gun, Squirtle," said Gary, making Squirtle come out of his shell before turning to land on his feet. "Squirtle." Squirtle fired a jet of water right into Pikachu's face, launching the electric type right back into a tree. "Pika." Pikachu let out another cry as he crashed into a tree before Squirtle stopped his attack, letting him fall to the ground. "Pie Pikachu." Pikachu tried standing up, refusing to give up against Squirtle, someone that he should have been able to defeat easily, only to end up falling back to the ground. "Pikachu?" Ash said in worry before running over to his starter and picking him up. "Way to go, Squirtle," Gary said with a smirk as he returned Squirtle to his Pokeball. "Well, Ashy boy, thanks for helping me figure out a strategy that Squirtle to deflect electric attacks. I'd say thanks for the battle, but you didn't even do anything. I might as well have been battling a wild and feral Pokémon than a trainer," said Gary, with Ash glaring lightly at him. "Take that back, Gary. Pikachu isn't wild or feral," said Ash, refusing to let him insult his starter like that. "No, because we both know it's true. There wasn't any problems when me and Squirtle battled Leaf and Naruto along with their starters, they all listened and worked with us. But that Pikachu refused to even consider working with you. And frankly, after what I just saw, I doubt you'll even be able to go anywhere with a starter like that," Gary retorted, making Ash scowl and look away. "Do whatever you want, Ashy boy. I need to head out if I want to catch up to the real trainers. Smell you later," said Gary as he turned to leave, wanting to get started on his journey since Naruto and Leaf now had a head start on him. While Professor Oak and Daisy went over to Ash and Pikachu, the latter using some potions to heal the mouse Pokémon. "I'm sorry that happened, Ash, and for what Gary said. But perhaps he did have a point about Pikachu being too wild to be your starter. I could take him back and contact one of my colleagues in the other regions, I'm sure they'd have at least one starter to send over for you to have." Oak offered, willing to contact the other professors to see if any of them had any starters left, only for Ash to shake his head. "No, Professor. I'm keeping Pikachu, he's the one I chose, and I'm going to have him be my Pokémon. And I'm gonna prove Gary wrong that we can be a great team and so I can earn Pikachu's trust," Ash said, determined to prove Gary wrong and earn the electric type's trust. Plus, Ash won't deny that part of him is hoping that this experience and defeat will humble Pikachu enough to at least listen to him and give him a chance as a trainer. Though he kept this to himself, not wanting to give them the wrong idea that he wants Pikachu to be taken down to make him listen. "Well, if you're sure," said Oak, with Ash nodding in response. "I am," replied Ash before turning to look at Pikachu. "Okay, if you're really certain, Ash, then you can keep Pikachu as your starter. But please be careful and contact us if Pikachu's giving you any trouble, we'll be there to help you if you need it," Daisy said in concern, with Oak nodding in agreement while Ash blushed at her concerned. "Don't worry. Pikachu and I will be friends before you know it. I guarantee the first time I call, we'll be the best team you'll ever see," Ash said, acting tough to assure them that they're fine. "I'm sure you will. Though before you get started on that, you should go see your mother and also get dressed as well," Oak said with a small smirk, reminding Ash he's still in his pajamas, making Ash blush in embarrassment before nodding in agreement. Though when the two weren't looking, Ash couldn't help but let out a tired sigh at how he hasn't even left home and he's already having problems. Having never imagined that this is how his Pokémon journey would start out, only being able to hope things will get better. Well, maybe things are going better for Naruto and Leaf. At least better than they're going for me, right now, Ash thought, wondering how the brunette and whiskered blonde were doing on their own journeys. But Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto sneezed as he left Viridian City, having finished his shopping and was ready to head out. With the Uzumaki rubbing his nose with a frown, having been sneezing a few times and was hoping he wasn't coming down with the flu or something. "That'd really suck if I just started my Pokémon journey only to get sick right after I left home," Naruto thought before shrugging as he headed down Route 2 towards Viridian Forest. It wasn't long before Naruto had reached Viridian Forest and began making his way through it while also taking in the sight of all the Pokémon he saw. Seeing far more than on routes 1 or 2, mostly bug-type Pokémon like Caterpies, Weedles, along with some Metapods and Kakunas hanging or clinging to trees. as well as several Pidgeys and Pidgeotos nesting in trees, as well as Spearows and a few Fearows flying in the sky, even some Hootoots hiding in the branches. Along with some grass-type Pokémon that he recognized, such as Bellsprouts and Oddishes. Though the Uzumaki had to really look for them, given how well they blended in with the forest. I don't even recognize some of these, though. Naruto thought, spotting even more Pokémon that he didn't recognize and could only guess what their type was. Seeing a few spider-looking Pokémon, with the smaller ones being green and a few bigger ones being red, which he guessed were bug types at the very least. Pokémon that looked like really large acorns with eyes and feet, which he thought were grass types. Even noticing a few gray pig-like Pokémon with what looked like pink gems on their heads and bouncing on their tails. With Naruto only looking around in amazement at all the Pokémon in the forest, feeling more excited than ever at what other kinds of Pokémon he'll see here. Before he smiled when he arrived at a decent-sized clearing in the forest, seeing it'd make for a good campsite. Even better that it'll make for a good spot to get some more training done. Thought Naruto, while grabbing Charmander's and Nidorann's Pokeballs. "Come on out, Charmander, Nidoran," said Naruto as he released both of his Pokémon. Charmander. Charmander looked around to see if they would be battling, only to not see any other Pokémon or trainers, making him look towards the Uzumaki. Nidoran. Nidoran looked around as well, but saw they were alone before turning to Naruto as well. "Okay guys, we'll be setting up camp here for a while and continue your training. We'll still be working on improving your strength, speed and endurance, making it so you can hit harder, dodge and reach opponents faster, and last longer in battles. Along with continuing to master your current moves to make them even more powerful," Naruto explained, with Charmander and Nidoran nodding in response, ready to continue their training. "We'll also be working on you two learning some new moves. For you, Charmander, we'll start working on you learning Will-O-Wisp and Iron Tail, which should be a little easy given Will-O-Wisp is pretty similar to Ember, and with you knowing Metal Claw, learning Iron Tail shouldn't take too long. Along with working on channeling your Ember into a concentrated fireball, rather than a scattershot, which will help you learn to concentrate your flames into more powerful attacks, later on," said Naruto, wanting to get his starter able to create even more powerful and concentrated flames. Charmander. Charmander nodded eagerly at learning what moves he'll be learning and eager for the chance to start learning more powerful fire attacks. And for you Nidoran, you'll be starting on learning to use Dig and Poison Jab, with Dig being useful in being able to use sneak attacks from underground and to better escape attacks. And it'll be good to have another poison type move aside from Poison Sting, along with helping later on to learn other punching and jabbing moves," Naruto said. "Neato." Nidoran nodded in agreement with the moves he'll be learning, knowing they'll be very useful with what he can already do. "Great. Then let's get camp set up and then get to training," said Naruto, smiling at his Pokémon, with Charmander and Nidoran nodding in agreement as they got to work. Later. Once they'd gotten camp set up, Naruto had begun Charmander's and Nidoran's training, with them doing physical exercises while working on improving their attacks and learning the new ones. With the whiskered blonde even setting up swinging targets for them to hit. Allowing the lizard and poison pin Pokémon to also work on improving their aim and hitting moving targets. Though eventually they stopped training after noon, with Naruto having started preparing their lunch early, finishing it just in time for their break. "You both did really great, I'm sure you'll be mastering the new moves in no time," Naruto stated, smiling at his Pokémon as they ate, happy at the progress they've made. Charmander smiled and nodded in agreement, pleased at his progress. Having come along nicely in learning Will-O-Wisp, while the only real hard part in learning Iron Tail is strengthening Charmander's tail to manifest a steel-type attack, as well as learning to concentrate his Ember into a single powerful fireball. Though he's still struggling to put into a single fireball, Charmander is able to reduce the number of fireballs he creates into a fewer, stronger ones. "Neato Nidoran." Nidoran nodded as well, having made good progress in learning Poison Jab and Dig. Given his knowledge of Double Kick and Poison Sting, it was like combining the two attacks together to use Poison Jab, but with his front paw rather than his foot. And covering his paw in his poison rather than shooting poisonous darts out. Well, Dig was rather simple, as he just needed to be capable of digging a hole fast enough and navigating underground to attack. And with the progress we're making, by the time we reach Pewter City, we should be ready to face the gym leader there, added Naruto, eager for the chance to see the progress of their training in an actual battle. Though, suddenly, the three stopped when they heard something moving through the bushes, making them pause in their eating and looked at where it came from. Only to tense when they heard more rustling coming from the opposite side of the clearing. "You guys heard that too, right?" Naruto asked, looking around warily at the chance some wild Pokémon were nearby, while Charmander and Nidoran nodded as they looked for any sign of any Pokémon. Standing up, Naruto quietly motioning Charmander and Nidoran to go to the two spots where they heard the rustling, while he moved to a hiding spot. with both Pokémon quickly and quietly going to where they heard the rustling before turning to their trainer for the signal to attack. The Uzumaki looked around once more in case he saw anything else or any movement before nodding to Charmander and Nidoran, motioning them to attack. Charmander instantly rushed through the bushes with his claws glowing white, slashing at any Pokémon that'd be hiding. Nidoran, meanwhile, jumped and flipped through the air over the bushes, slamming his foot into the Pokémon hiding there. Only for the two to be surprised and confused when they realized there weren't any Pokémon hiding in the bushes. "Did you two find anything?" Naruto asked, looked to his Pokémon, with Charmander and Nidoran coming out from the bushes and shaking their heads. Charmander. Charmander looked around, wondering if it was just some Pokémon moving close by that they heard and they left. Nido ran Nidoran. Nidoran looked as well, in case that it was a trick to make them lower their guards, only for his eyes to widen when he saw that their food was now missing. Nidoran. Nidoran quickly got Naruto's and Charmander's attention, pointing to where their food used to be, much to their surprise to see it's gone. "Hey. Who's out here taking our food?" said Naruto in annoyance, now seeing someone or something was here. Charmander. Charmander glared around them, annoyed that a Pokémon stole their food and was now likely messing with them. Before their heads turned towards the tent when they heard something moving inside of it, much to their further annoyance that the Pokémon was still invading their campsite. Naruto motioned for them to be quiet as they approached the tent, hoping to get the jump on whatever Pokémon was inside. "I pie pika pie." Frowning as they got closer and could now hear the Pokémon inside, the whiskered blonde feeling like he's heard the cry before. Though at the moment only focused on the fact that it sounded like the Pokémon was still eating their food. Once they were close enough, Charmander and Nidoran were the first to rush into the tent, with Naruto following right behind them. The three of them seeing that the Pokémon that invaded their campsite was a Pikachu, with it currently finishing off their food. "Pikachu? Pikachu smiled as it ate the last of the delicious food, only to soon notice Naruto, Charmander and Nidoran looking at it in annoyance. "Boy. That was ours, you little thief," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes at Pikachu. Charmander. Charmander scowled at Pikachu, showing his annoyance. Nidoran ran Nido. Nidoran narrowed his eyes as well, tempted to start firing a poison sting at the mouse Pokémon. Pikachu glanced between the annoyed trio and the now empty dishes a few times before it grinned and pulled down its eyelid and stuck out its tongue. Pikachu then suddenly shot up and smacked the dishes straight at Charmander and Nidoran with its tail, neither of the two able to dodge the sudden attack as they were knocked out of the tent. "Hey you little Naruto said, only for Pikachu to bite down on the sleeping bag before jumping at the Uzumaki, pulling the sleeping bag over his head while kicking off Naruto's head in the process. Pika pie. Pikachu laughed at the three picking themselves up off the ground. Charmander. Charmander was the first to get up and instantly began shooting fireballs at Pikachu, only for the electric-type Pokémon to start moving at high speeds, dodging the fireballs. Pikachu Pika. Pikachu avoided the fireballs, making faces at Charmander each time he dodged, annoying the lizard Pokémon even further. Before Pikachu suddenly appeared beside Naruto's backpack and began throwing stuff out of it, much to Naruto's own annoyance as he pulled his sleeping bag off his head. "Hey. Come on, stop that and get out of there," Naruto said, running to grab everything Pikachu was throwing around, with Charmander and Nidoran running to help their trainer. Pikachu merely waved at the three of them while grabbing some stuff before taking off back into the forest. "Oh no you don't. You aren't going to get away after all that," said Naruto as he quickly tossed everything into the tent before he took off running after Pikachu, with Charmander and Nidoran following after their trainer. Running through the trees, Naruto made sure to keep Pikachu in his sight, which was easy due to how its yellow fur stuck out in the greens and browns of the forest. The Uzumaki ran as fast as he could after the mouse Pokémon, while doing his best to grab anything Pikachu threw at them. "Nidoran try and hit it with poison sting," Naruto said, hoping to slow Pikachu down long enough to force it into a battle. Nidoran. Nidoran opened his mouth and fire multiple purple darts at Pikachu. Pikachu glanced behind it before its body gained a glowing white outline, with multiple copies of it suddenly appeared. "Double team," said Naruto, his eyes widening at the sight of the copies, with Nidoran's darts hitting a few of them only to pass right through. "Charmander use Ember on all of them," said Naruto, with Charmander immediately shooting fireballs at all the Pikachus, destroying all of the duplicates but still not hitting the real one. "Come on. It couldn't have gotten Aya," Naruto said, only to scream when he suddenly fell down a hill, rolling down it before screaming again when he fell right into some thorny bushes. "I pie Pika." Pikachu laughed at the sight of the whiskered blonde falling into the bushes before tossing a pair of boxers that he grabbed, with them landing on Naruto's head when he came out of the bushes. "You're so dead when I get my hands on you," yelled Naruto in anger as Pikachu took off again before turning to his Pokémon. "Nidoran, see if you can run ahead and find a place to block Pikachu. Charmander, stay with me and we'll try to lure Pikachu into a battle," Naruto said, the fire-type and poison-type Pokémon nodding in response. With Nidoran taking off running to try and get ahead of Pikachu to block its paths, while Naruto and Charmander continued chasing after the mouse Pokémon. Later. Pikachu looked behind it, not seeing any sign of the human or Charmander chasing it anymore, wondering if they finally gave up. Given that after tricking the trainer into falling off the hill and into the bushes, Pikachu continued leading them on a chase through the forest. Throwing things at the Uzumaki to distract him from running into low-hanging branches, a small cliff, a river, and into a swarm of angry Beedrill. With Pikachu finding it rather funny how the humans still kept chasing it, even after all that. But now it didn't see them anywhere anymore, making Pikachu wonder if they'd given up trying to catch it. Though Pikachu's ears twitched when it suddenly heard something, making the electric-type Pokémon look around for anything or anyone. "Use smokescreen," Naruto shouted, before Pikachu looked around in surprise when it was suddenly engulfed in a thick cloud of black smoke. Pikachu looked around rapidly for where the trainer and Pokémon were, only to cry out when Nidoran appeared through the smoke and slamming his foot into its face. "Nidoran." Nidoran landed on the ground, looking at Pikachu with narrowed eyes, pleased at having managed to catch up to the thieving Pokémon. While Pikachu got back up and shook its head, narrowing its eyes at Nidoran at the unexpected sneak attack. "No more running now, Pikachu," said Naruto as he and Charmander appeared behind Pikachu, making it look to see they were keeping it from escaping. "Pika-pie." Pikachu looked between them before fully turning towards Naruto, seeing that it wouldn't be able to escape without a battle. "Yeah, if you want to escape then you're gonna have to battle. Charmander, you're up. Nidoran, be ready if it tries escaping," Naruto said, with Charmander stepping forward and narrowing his eyes at Pikachu, ready and eager for the chance to take it down. "Neato." Nidoran nodded in response, ready to move the moment Pikachu tries escaping again. "Pikachu." Pikachu immediately fired a bolt of lightning straight at Charmander. "Dodge it and use Growl, Charmander," said Naruto, with Charmander quickly jumping out of the way of the lightning bolt. Charmander then let out a loud piercing cry that caused Pikachu to flinch as its attack went down. "Now hit it with Ember," Naruto said, the fire type immediately launching multiple fireballs at Pikachu. Only for Pikachu to shake off the growl and vanished in a burst of speed, reappearing around Charmander before its body started glowing white. With multiple copies of Pikachu appearing as they all ran around Charmander. Charmander. Charmander looked around wildly, trying to keep track of all the Pikachus, only to cry out when the real Pikachu suddenly slammed into him from behind. "Charmander. Use Growl again and then follow it up with a Metal Claw," said Naruto, seeing a chance to attack Pikachu before he got away again. Charmander. Charmander managed to focus and let out another loud piercing cry, making Pikachu flinch again as its attack went down. Before Charmander's claws glowed white as he quickly turned around and slashed Pikachu once before slashing him again. Pikachu let out a cry as it was knocked back from the attack, while Charmander felt himself grow stronger from using Metal Claw. "Now use Smokescreen," Naruto said, the lizard Pokémon unleashed a thick cloud of black smoke that engulfed Pikachu. Pikachu. Pikachu though suddenly started laughing mischievously in the smoke cloud, making Naruto and Charmander frown at why it's laughing. Only for Pikachu to suddenly run out of the smoke right towards Charmander at high speed. "Dodge it, Charmander, and then use Ember again," said Naruto, making Charmander jump out of the way as Pikachu ran past him. "Charmander. Charmander." Charmander then released multiple fireballs at Pikachu, only to be shocked when they passed right through it. "What? How did it use Double Team? Charmander, get out of the way," Naruto said, realizing Pikachu used Double Team to distract them with a duplicate. "Ooh." Pikachu then shot another bolt of lightning through the smoke, this time succeeding in hitting Charmander, making the fire type cry out as the lightning bolt crashed into him. "Charmander," said Naruto in worry for his starter, while Charmander slowly stood back up gritting his teeth. Charmander. Charmander panted lightly from being electrocuted before Pikachu rushed out of the smoke. "Pikachu." Pikachu then shot blue streams of electricity at Charmander, making Naruto narrow his eyes. "Okay, that has to be the real one if it's using an actual attack. But I don't know if Charmander can dodge in time, unless Naruto thought as he got an idea. Charmander use Metal Claw to deflect the electricity, then get in close," said Naruto. Charmander's claws glowed white as he charged towards Pikachu before swinging his claws at the stream of electricity, succeeding in deflecting them away from him. Pikachu was surprised at seeing its attack be deflected like that, only to cry out when Charmander closed the distance between them and swiped it with his claws. Charmander. Charmander. Charmander struck Pikachu multiple times with his claws, feeling his attack power growing a few times, before delivering a final swipe that knocked Pikachu back. Now let's finish it with another ember. Naruto said, believing the next attack will finish the battle. Charmander unleashed multiple fireballs at Pikachu, only for the mouse Pokémon to manage to stand back up and began moving around at high speed, dodging the fireballs. Pikachu and its copies all began laughing mischievously as they ran around Charmander, the lizard Pokémon, trying to find which of them was the real one. Charmander. Charmander then cried out when Pikachu suddenly appeared behind him and slammed into the fire-type Pokémon. Pikachu then let out a stream of blue electricity, this time succeeding in hitting Charmander, making him cry out before he suddenly felt his body become paralyzed. Charmander. Charmander tried moving only to end falling down as his body remained unresponsive. Charmander. Naruto said in worry at seeing Charmander was now paralyzed. Pikachu then unleashed a lightning bolt at Charmander. Charmander, try and use smokescreen, then dodge. Said Naruto, hoping that Charmander would be able to move enough to use smokescreen and dodge. Charmander. Charmander struggled to move but eventually succeeded in releasing a cloud of smoke, then rolled out of the way, dodging the lightning bolt. Only for multiple copies of Pikachu to rush out of the smoke, making their eyes widen, unsure if they were all duplicates or if the real Pikachu was among them. Charmander use Ember. Naruto said, with Charmander struggling to move but soon managed to stand up. Charmander. Charmander then shot several fireballs at the Pikachus, only for all of them to be revealed to be fake. Pikachu then jumped out into the air from the smoke and fired another lightning bolt at Charmander. Use metal claw to deflect it, Charmander. Said Naruto as Charmander's claws glowed wide as he turned to swing his arm, succeeding in deflecting the lightning bolt before it could hit him. Okay, once more, end it with a concentrated ember strike. Naruto said, hoping Charmander will be able to use a concentrated ember. Charmander. Charmander looked up at Pikachu as he focused on firing a single empowered fireball rather than multiple ones. But the lizard Pokémon letting out a loud cry as he then shot a fireball that burned brighter and more powerful than the previous ones, right at Pikachu. The electric type's eyes widening at the sight of the fireball coming at it while being unable to dodge while it was in the air. Pikachu let out a cry as the fireball slammed into its abdomen, sending the mouse Pokémon crashing into the ground. Pikachu. Pikachu struggled to stand up after the attack, feeling tired and weak from the damage and the electric energy it's used up, but also refusing to give up now, seeing how tired Charmander also was. I don't think so. Go Pokeball. Said Naruto, throwing a Pokeball at Pikachu before it could get up. The Pokeball bounced off of Pikachu's head before opening up and sucking it inside, with it falling to the ground and shaking a few times. While Naruto, Charmander and Nidoran watched it shake to see if the capture will succeed or if the battle will end up going on. Until finally, the Pokeball went still and let out a ping sound, making the whiskered blonde grin. Alright. I caught a Pikachu. Naruto cheered as he grabbed his newest Pokémon. Charmander smiled along with his trainer, happy that they were able to catch another Pokémon, before he sat down in relief that he could rest now after the tough battle. Nidoran. Nidoran ran over to them and smiled as well, as while he didn't get to battle, he's still happy for the new addition to the team. Now, let's see what our new friend can do. Said Naruto, pulling out his Pokédex and scanning the Pokeball to check Pikachu's stats. Pikachu. Gender. Male. Ability. Lightning Rod. Moves. Thunder Shock, Nasty Plot, Thunder Wave, Double Team, Quick Attack. Egg moves. Thunder Punch, Electric Terrain, Reversal, Volt Tackle. Wow, no wonder this Pikachu is so strong with moves like that. And with these egg moves, he'll definitely be a major powerhouse. Said Naruto, pleased at the new addition to his team before turning to Charmander and Nidoran. You guys returned too. You both deserve some rest after that chase and battle. Naruto said, returning them to their Pokeballs as well. Before the Uzumaki sighed as he began making his way back to their campsite, along with picking up everything Pikachu had stolen and thrown at them during the chase. Later. Okay, that's everything. Thank goodness. Naruto thought, relieved he was able to find everything that Pikachu had taken and thrown throughout the forest, along with being relieved when he reached camp to find that no other Pokémon had shown up to steal anything. Once he reached camp, Naruto let out Charmander, Nidoran, and his new Pikachu to get the latter properly introduced and integrated into the team. Pikachu looked around upon seeing they were back at the campsite before turning to his new trainer. Hey Pikachu, I'm glad that you'll be joining our team, I'm sure you'll be a great addition. But that doesn't mean we still aren't annoyed at you eating our lunch and then stealing my stuff before leading us on a wild chase. Naruto said, smiling at his new Pokémon before narrowing his eyes. Charmander Charmander. Charmander nodded in agreement while crossing his arms, still annoyed that he ate their lunch, making it even more enjoyable to defeat him in battle. Neato. Nidoran gave a short and wide nod as well, having wished to battle Pikachu, if only to get some payback for that. I pie pika pie Pikachu Pikachu pie Pikachu Pikachu. Pikachu smiled nervously at that, figuring they'd be upset about that still, though hope they won't be too upset. It's fine, you don't have to be worried or scared, I can just make some more. Though in the future, don't just steal food from others, if you wanted I could have made some for you, earlier. Said Naruto, not wanting Pikachu to end up upsetting the wrong person by stealing their food or belongings. Pika Pikachu Pika. Pikachu nodded in understanding, though didn't make any promises about not messing with others since he enjoyed it too much. Good. Now after lunch, we'll be getting back to training. Pikachu, you'll be working with Charmander and Nidoran on improving your strength, speed and endurance, though it does seem like you're already pretty fast, it never hurts to keep improving what you're already good at. In addition to that, you'll also be working on mastering the moves you already know to make them even stronger and improving your aim with some targets I've set up. You'll also be working with Charmander to learn Iron Tail, as well as dig with Nidoran to give you a better variety of attacks to use. As for your egg moves, we're gonna hold off on unlocking those since there's some pretty powerful attacks. Naruto explained, knowing Pikachu could learn Dig and Iron Tail, two moves that'll definitely be helpful for him to know. While his egg moves are all really powerful attacks that would be better to learn once he's gotten stronger and able to handle the electrical power of Thunder Punch and Volt Tackle. And being physically strong enough to use Reversal. I pie Pika Pikachu. Pikachu smiled and nodded eagerly, liking the chance of growing stronger and learn more moves. Smiling at Pikachu's excitement, Naruto got to work on making more lunch for them, hoping this time they'll be able to finish without any interruptions. With Gary. Hahaha. Now this is how you travel. Right girls. Gary said with a smirk as he sat in his red convertible with his cheerleaders. Yeah Gary. Said the cheerleaders as they drove through Viridian Forest. Despite having stayed behind in Pallet Town until Ash woke up, Gary was able to make up for the time he lost by driving straight through Route 1, Viridian City, and Route 2 until he reached Viridian Forest. While also stopping a few times to catch plenty of Pokémon, wanting to catch as many as he can to have as many Pokémon to use in any situation or battle. As well as to make Squirtle even stronger with all the battling they've done. Ha! At this rate I'll be breezing through the gym leaders like it's nothing. And after them it'll be wah. Said Gary, only to cry along with his cheerleaders when the cheerleader that's driving suddenly slammed on the brakes, throwing them forward. Hey. What's the big idea stopping like that? Gary demanded in annoyance at the sudden stop. Sorry Gary. But well, I needed to stop because said the girl, motioning to the front of the car, only to be interrupted. Hold it right there. There's a trainer here, isn't there? Someone said, making Gary and the girls look ahead, only to see a person standing in front of the car. The person being a young boy wearing samurai armor and even carrying a sword, while on his back was a bug-catching net. I am Samurai and I'm challenging you to a Pokémon battle. Said Samurai while pulling out a Pokeball. I had to stop because he suddenly jumped in front of the car with his sword out. The driver said, much to their disbelief. Are you crazy? Why would you jump in front of a car like that? Said Gary, not expecting anyone to do something like that. I'm not crazy. I'm simply looking for a Pokémon battle and you're the first trainer I've come across in a while. Now let's battle, Pinsir. Samurai said before releasing his Pokémon. It was a bipedal coleopteran insectoid Pokémon with a wide, dull brown body divided into segments by thin lines. On top of its head is a large pair of grey, spiky pincers on top of its head. In its mouth are many long flat teeth arranged horizontally and it has triangular eyes. Its legs are short and thick, while its arms are long and thin. It has 3 claws on each hand and foot. 2 of its toes face forward and 1 backward. Pinsir, huh? Gary said, pulling out his Pokédex and scanning Pinsir. Pinsir, the stag beetle Pokémon. When Pinsir's horns clamp onto an opponent, they won't release until it's defeated. Alright, bug boy, you wanna battle then let's battle. Come on out, Squirtle. Said Gary, getting out of the car and releasing Squirtle. Squirtle. Squirtle appeared in front of his trainer before narrowing his eyes at Pinsir, ready for another battle. Gary, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Go Gary. The cheerleaders cheered, eager to see Gary win another battle. Let's start off with water gun. Gary said, with Squirtle unleashing a spiral jet of water at Pinsir. Dodge it Pinsir, then use Vi's grip. said Samurai, making Pinsir jump out of the way of the jet of water. Pinsir then rushed forward toward Squirtle as its pincers spread open on its head. "You'll have to do better than that. Use withdraw Squirtle," said Gary. Squirt. Squirtle pulled his limbs into his shell, with it glowing blue just in time as Pinsir's pincers snapped around his shell. "Now use rapid spin," Gary said, while Squirtle began spinning at high speed in between Pinsir's pincers. Only for Gary to look in disbelief when the pincers suddenly broke, allowing Squirtle to slam into Pinsir, launching the stag beetle Pokémon back into a tree. Pinsir tried getting up, only to end up falling to the ground with swirls in its eyes. "Ah. No Pinsir," Samurai said, running over to his Pokémon. Huh? Gary said in confusion, not expecting Pinsir to go down that easily. Squirtle. Squirtle poked his head out of his shell, only to be just as confused as his trainer at seeing Pinsir was unconscious. "You may have beaten my Pinsir, but it's not the only bug Pokémon you'll be facing. Go Metapod," said Samurai as he returned Pinsir before throwing out his second Pokémon. Metapod is an insect Pokémon that resembles a green chrysalis. Its body is crescent-shaped with several segments making up the lower point. The front of Metapod's shell resembles a face with heavy-lidded eyes and a sharply pointed nose. The back of its shell consists of several geometrically shaped portions and projections. Metapod. Metapod stared ahead at Squirtle and Gary, with the two being unsure what to do or think at facing such a Pokémon. Squirtle. Squirtle looked at Gary with an unsure expression, not sure how else to react against battling a Pokémon that couldn't even attack back. Gary muttered while pulling out his Pokédex, figuring he might as well scan Metapod. Metapod, the cocoon Pokémon. Metapod is the evolved form of Caterpie. Using a hard shell to protect its body, it prepares for its next evolution. "Are you sure you don't have any other Pokémon?" questioned Gary, aware that Metapod really only knew a single move, a move that couldn't even inflict damage. "No. But all I need is Metapod, we'll outlast any Pokémon you have and win this battle. Now go Metapod, use Harden," said Samurai. Metapod. Metapod began glowing a greenish-whitish color as its defense grew much stronger. "Squirtle, just use water gun as strong as possible," Gary said in a dry tone as he facepalmed at the sight, now wanting to just get this over with and continue on his way. Squirtle. Squirtle nodded before firing a powerful blast of water that slammed right into Metapod, sending the cocoon Pokémon crashing into a tree and becoming embedded in it. Metapod tried dislodging itself from the tree, only to eventually give up when Squirtle hit it with another jet of water, knocking it out. "No. You've defeated my Metapod as well." "How?" Samurai said, not believing both his Pokémon were defeated. "It wasn't really that hard," muttered Gary as he returned Squirtle and hopped back into the car. "Wait. Tell me, where are you from? I must know the home of the trainer who defeated me," said Samurai, standing in front of the car again. "The name's Gary Oak from Pallet Town. Remember it, cause you'll be hearing my name a lot when I become champion," Gary said as he motioned the driver to go around Samurai, wanting to get out of the forest as soon as possible now. "Then I swear that I shall defeat every trainer from Pallet Town, no matter what. I won't let a single one pass through my forest without experiencing unimaginable defeat, just as I have today. And when the time comes I shall defeat you, Gary Oak. This is my vow," Samurai declared, determined to defeat every single trainer from Pallet Town before challenging Gary again to defeat him. "Yeah, you do that. What a freaky bug guy," said Gary, while muttering the latter part in a low tone, and once they were out of Samurai's hearing range. "With Ash. Alright. We're doing amazing, Pikachu. We haven't even reached Viridian City and we've already caught a Pidgey, Rattata, and a Spearow." Ash cheered while grinning happily at how many Pokémon he's already managed to catch. "I pick a Pikachu." Pikachu waved off his trainer's words with a bored look on his face and his arms crossed. Well, he still wasn't big on the idea of being anyone's Pokémon after being defeated by Squirtle and seeing that Ash was still willing to keep him despite electrocuting him several times. Pikachu figured he could at least give Ash a chance and see what kind of trainer he is. Though Pikachu also adamantly refused to be put back in his Pokeball, shocking Ash again when he kept trying to get the message across. "Okay, let's see what they all can do," said Ash, scanning his 3 new Pokémon, having waited to scan them until he's sure he caught as many Pokémon as he'd wanted at the moment. Pidgey, the tiny bird Pokémon. Pidgey usually doesn't like to battle, but it won't hesitate to attack if provoked. Pidgey. Gender. Female. Ability. Big pecs. Mavacet. Gust, Sand Attack, Quick Attack, Whirlwind. Egg moves. Air Cutter, Brave Bird. Spearow, the tiny bird Pokémon. Unlike Pidgey, Spearow has a terrible attitude. It is very wild and will sometimes attack other Pokémon and humans. Spearow. Gender. Male. Ability. Sniper. Mavacet. Peck, Growl, Leer, Fury Attack, Assurance. Egg moves. Sky Attack, Feather Dance, Tri Attack. Rattata, the mouse Pokémon. Rattata is cautious in the extreme. Even while it is asleep, it constantly moves its ears and listens for danger. It will make its nest anywhere. Rattata. Gender. Male. Ability. Guts. Mavacet. Quick Attack, Tail Whip, Bite, Laser Focus. Egg moves. Flame Wheel. Awesome. These three will make great teammates to have. Now let's keep going, Pikachu. Maybe we'll come across even more Pokémon to catch or even some trainers to battle. Said Ash as they continued on their way, happy that his Pokémon journey was now going much better. With Leaf. Meanwhile, Leaf had just arrived at the Viridian City Pokémon Center, handing her Pokémon over to Nurse Joy to look them over. The brunette being happy that she'd managed to catch not only a female Nidoran but a Bellsprout as well back on Route 1. Before she pulled out her Pokédex to look over their stats again. Nidoran, female. Gender, female. Ability, Poison Point. Mavacet. Poison Sting, Growl, Double Kick, Fury Swipe. Egg moves. Poison Fang, Skull Bash, Supersonic. Bellsprout. Gender, male. Ability, Chlorophyll. Mavacet. Vine Whip, Growth, Wrap, Acid. Definitely some good moves, even better that Bulbasaur in a grass poison type, so she'll be able to also learn some of the same moves as Nidoran and Bellsprout, especially the latter. Viridian Forest is also full of plenty of bug-type Pokémon, so that'll also help me train Bulbasaur and Bellsprout early to better resist bug-type attacks. Well, Bulbasaur and Nidoran can help Bellsprout resist poison-type attacks, since Bulbasaur won't be as affected thanks to being part poison type. Leaf thought with a smile, pleased at her team so far and knowing she'll be having plenty of time to work on training them up. And from what I've heard, the Pewter City gym leader specializes in rock-type Pokémon. So Bulbasaur and Bellsprout will be perfect to use there once they've gotten stronger. Thought Leaf, excited for the chance to earn her first gym badge. Before her attention turned to Nurse Joy when she brought her Pokémon out, making Leaf stand up and go over to her. Here are your Pokémon back, Leaf. All they needed was a little rest and now they're ready for anything. Nurse Joy said with a smile, making Leaf smile as well. Thank you, Nurse Joy. See you. Said Leaf, smiling at the two before heading for the exit with a wave. Of course, and take care out there. Said Nurse Joy while returning the wave. Chansey. Chansey waved to the new trainer as well as Leaf exited the Pokémon Center. Okay, next stop is Viridian Forest. Leaf thought as she headed towards Route 2 and Viridian Forest. Charmander use Ember. Naruto said with Charmander releasing a single fireball, one that was now much bigger and stronger than before. But the fireball crashing into a swinging wooden target, hitting it just as it descended from the height of its swing. Blasting right through it and incinerating the target, making the Uzumaki grin. Alright. You've really begun improving on the new variation of Ember, Charmander. Said Naruto, pleased at how quickly Charmander's improved the more focused Ember attack. Charmander Char. Charmander grinned at his trainer, also happy at how much stronger his Ember has gotten. Having been working on it for a few hours now after they finished their lunch. With Naruto wanting to improve the size, power and speed of the attack. As well as single concentrated fireball will be much stronger, it still won't do much if it can't hit an opponent or if they can just shrug it off. Though he's also been having Charmander practicing on learning Will-O-Wisp as well. While for Iron Tail, Charmander and Pikachu have both been practicing that, the whiskered blonde having them strengthen their tails by striking trees. Both of them having made good progress in damaging the trees while their tails got stronger. Pikachu also joined Nidoran in learning Dig, something that's helped them progress even faster in learning the move, with both Pokémon trying to dig faster than the other. While Nidoran's kept working on learning Poison Jab, making good progress in covering his paw in his poison and increasing his striking strength. In addition to all that, Naruto still made sure they practiced with their other moves as well, along with their speed, strength and endurance. With him now having his Pokémon randomly throw attacks at each other to also work on their awareness and being prepared for any sudden surprise attacks. Okay, Pikachu. Naruto said, getting the electric mouse's attention from where he was swinging his tail against a tree, having started breaking through it. Pika. Pikachu ran over and stood beside Charmander, wondering if they'll be doing different training. I just want to see how you two have progressed with Iron Tail. And you'll be hitting that. Said Naruto, looking around before pointing at a boulder, wanting to see how they did against something stronger than a tree. With Charmander and Pikachu looking at the boulder before nodding in understanding as they prepared to strike the boulder. You first, Charmander, use Iron Tail. Naruto said, making Charmander rush towards the boulder before leaping up into the air. Charmander. Charmander's tail and flame began flickering with a white glow as he flipped through the air before slamming his glowing tail on top of the boulder, causing it to crack. Nice one, Charmander. You're next Pikachu, use Iron Tail. Said Naruto, with Pikachu charging forward this time. Pika. Pika 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 Pikachu. Pikachu charged at the boulder and jumped high into the air, flipping around as his tail started glowing as well. The mouse Pokémon slammed his tail into the boulder, making the cracks on it spread even further with pieces of it starting to break off. Way to go. Well, it looks like you could still use some work on improving it, it seems like we should be able to use it in battle at the very least. Said Naruto, seeing how their tails kept flickering from glowing and not glowing, but could see they were able to perform it. Now then, I think it's time we should start on a new form of training, resistance training. Naruto stated, making Charmander and Pikachu look at him curiously. Charmander? Charmander tilted his head, wondering what resistance training was meant to help with. Jew? Pikachu's ear twitched as he looked at their trainer, curious of what the new training will have them do. It's a form of training that I learned from my mom. She did it with her own Pokémon, particularly with her Ninetales, Kurama. The training is to help Pokémon build up a resistance to the types they're weak against. With Kurama, Mom worked to have him develop a resistance to water type, rock type, and ground type attacks. Though we'll get to those later for you Charmander, once we have more Pokémon that are those types or can learn moves of those types. Instead, we'll be helping you develop a resistance for electric type attacks. Explained Naruto, the explanation intriguing the Pokémon at the idea of being able to develop a resistance to their weaknesses. Charmander though was confused at why they were having him work on resisting electric type attacks, since he wasn't weak to electric attacks. I know you aren't weak to electric types, not yet anyway. But you will be when you're eventually fully evolved into a Charizard. So it'll be something you'll benefit from in the long run. And it'll be good to start on it now, when you'd only take a regular amount of damage, rather than when you're weak to it. Naruto said, making the two nod in understanding. But that also means Pikachu's going to be shocking you several times and you won't be able to hold back, Pikachu. Otherwise the training won't be as effective. Are you both ready for that? Naruto asked, wanting to make sure Charmander was ready to be repeatedly shocked and that Pikachu wouldn't hold back from giving it his all. Charmander and Pikachu looked at each other before nodding in agreement and understanding of what they'll be doing for the training. With the two moving to stand across from each other, the lizard Pokémon bracing himself for what'll come next. Okay, then if you both are ready. Pikachu used Thunder Shock on Charmander. Said Naruto. Pikachu. Pikachu's cheek sparked with electricity before he fired a lightning bolt straight at Charmander, the fire type resisting the urge to jump out of the way of the attack. Before Charmander cried out as the lightning bolt hit him, while Pikachu kept up the attack. Unsure if they were supposed to keep going until one of them didn't have any energy or Naruto told them to stop. The Uzumaki meanwhile clenched his fists, not wanting to hurt his Pokémon like this, but knew it'd benefit them in the long run. That's enough. Naruto said after a few moments, with Pikachu quickly stopping his attack, showing Charmander panting heavily and shaking from the electricity still running through him. How are you doing Charmander? Do want to take a break? Asked Naruto while looking at his starter in concern. Charmander. Charmander shook his head, despite feeling like he could collapse at any moment, he wanted to keep going, since they won't make any progress if he wants to stop after the first hit every time. Okay, if you're still able to keep going. Though Pikachu will also be using Thunder Wave too, which will help you build up a resistance to being paralyzed. You've already got the willpower to fight through it, so the added resistance will be very beneficial. Naruto said, having seen that Charmander had great willpower to fight through being paralyzed, showing he really had a lot of potential. Charmander. Charmander nodded at this, well relieved that Thunder Wave didn't actually hurt and only paralyzed him. But first, Nidoran. Said Naruto, looking to where Nidoran was, only to frown when he didn't see the poison pin Pokémon. Nidoran. Naruto called out before the ground in front of him broke open and Nidoran popped out of the hole. Neato. Nidoran climbed out of the hole while shaking the dirt off of his body. Were you underground this entire time? Naruto asked in surprise, wondering how long Nidoran was underground. Nidoran nodded in response, having been working on improving his ability to navigate underground and feel the vibrations of everything above ground, with his enhanced hearing helping with that. Good job on improving your use of dig. But right now, we're doing some new training. We're working on building Charmander's resistance to electric type attacks for when he eventually becomes a Charizard. Along with building up a resistance to paralysis, and I want you to join the training since while you'll be immune to electric type attacks as a Nidoking, you'll still be vulnerable to being paralyzed. Explained Naruto, with Nidoran being intrigued at hearing of the new training they'll be doing before nodding in agreement. Neato. Nidoran went over and stood next to Charmander, ready for Pikachu to hit them and to fight off the paralysis when it comes. Alright then. Use Thunder Wave, Pikachu. Naruto said, with Pikachu firing streams of blue electricity at Charmander and Nidoran to paralyze them. Later. They had kept up the training for a few hours, with Naruto making sure they took several breaks to let his Pokémon rest and recover. Along with using Paralyze heals on Charmander and Nidoran and potions for Charmander to help recover from the damage of being electrocuted. Though they didn't make any major breakthroughs, the whiskered blonde could see each time they were paralyzed, Charmander and Nidoran were slowly being able to move. While Charmander was able to remain standing a little longer before the electricity became too much. All in all, Naruto was pleased at the progress they've made in their training before he recalled his Pokémon and continued on his way through Viridian Forest. I can't believe the sun is just only starting to descend. Naruto thought, looking up through the trees and seeing the sun had already passed its apex and was beginning to go down. Naruto was really glad that he woke up really early on the day he got his starter, allowing him even more time than usual to set out and get plenty of training done, not to mention the ground he was able to cover. I should be able to reach Pewter City in time before the gym closes at this rate. Thought Naruto in excitement, hoping he'll be able to get his first gym badge before the end of the day. Though suddenly, Naruto stopped when he heard a shout before the Uzumaki was shocked when someone wearing samurai armor jumped out from a tree and they were swinging a sword at him. Ah! Naruto said, jumping back, panicking at how close the sword came down to hit him. Hold it right there. Where are you from? Demanded the kid, pointing his sword at Naruto. Pallet Town. I'm Naruto Uzumaki from Pallet Town. Said Naruto, unsure if this kid was intending to keep attacking him or planned to do something else, but either way he was preparing to run. Then you will go no further. I am Samurai and I have sworn to defeat all trainers from Pallet Town. Now it's time to battle. Samurai declared before pulling out a Pokeball, while Naruto looked at him in disbelief as he realized the kid wasn't an actual threat. Of all the trainers I had to encounter out here, it had to be Chiknibum Bugcatcher that thinks he's an actual samurai. Naruto thought, groaning with a facepalm as while he normally didn't have a problem with Chiknibum, it didn't mean he'd tolerate them attacking and inconveniencing him like this as they live out their fantasies. So you just wanted to battle me? Naruto asked, with Samurai nodding in response. Yes. Now send out your Pokémon and feel the wrath of my bug Pokémon. Said Samurai, the whiskered blonde not moving to release any of his Pokémon and only looked at him blankly. You only wanted to battle yet you decided that first you'd attack me with a damn sword. Demanded Naruto, starting off in a low tone before shouting at Samurai. I needed to get your attention. Samurai stated after a few moments, thinking over what exactly he did and would admit he probably could have done something less dangerous. Naruto looked at him for a few moments before simply walking past Samurai, refusing to battle someone like that. Wah hey. Where are you going? We still have to battle. Samurai said, running in front of the Uzumaki, refusing to let him leave without a battle. Yeah, that's not happening. Not happening because you decided to attack me with a fucking sword. Seriously, who does that? You couldn't have just said hey, do you want to battle or something like that, rather than come swinging at me with a sword, like a jackass. Do you even realize how rude that was? Said Naruto, refusing to battle someone whose first instinct is to start swinging a sword at an opponent. I am, said Samurai, feeling stunned and unsure what to say, while Naruto took a few breaths to calm down. Okay, it's probably best if I just leave. Naruto stated, wanting to now get out of the forest as soon as possible in case any more crazy people start showing up. Yeah, right. No hard feelings about the sword, right? Samurai asked, figuring he should stop while he's ahead, but wanted to see if they were alright, only to see that Naruto was already started walking away. That bent you freaky bug guy. Retorted Naruto. Hey. I am not a freaky bug guy. Retorted Samurai in annoyance, not liking being called a freaky bug guy. Samurai's a freak bug GUY. Naruto sang spitefully, still feeling rather annoyed by the whole sword thing. HMPH. Fine, leave. At least Viridian Forest will never leave me, right? Samurai said before looking around at the forest, only to hear nothing but the wind and rustling tree branches. Why don't you ever answer me, Viridian Forest? Questioned Samurai. With Naruto. Oh thank Kami, I'm finally out of that forest. Naruto said in relief as he exited Viridian Forest and could see Pewter City just up ahead before he sat down on a large rock to rest. I swear that Samurai guy was a fucking psycho. He just comes out swinging a damn sword at anyone who passes through the forest and just expects them to be okay with battling him after he tries slicing them like that. Said Naruto, not believing he thought doing that of all things was a good idea. Honestly, I'd rather end up getting chased by some crazy old lady that acts like a drama queen, a man with a tendency to cross-dress, who's running away from an arranged marriage that his insane family had set up, and a talking Pokémon for the rest of my life, than even battle that crazy kid once. Naruto muttered, only to pause and frown in confusion at the oddly specific scenario. But Team Rocket? Meanwhile, unknown to Naruto, a certain trio that matched his description all just sneezed within their Meowth-shaped hot air balloon. Huh, that was weird. Said James, rubbing his nose, confused as to why they all sneezed at the same time. You're telling me? We better not be getting sick or something. Meowth stated, not wanting to get sick now, especially when they're about to pull off a heist. I am not an old lady. Jessie screamed, just feeling that someone has called her old, while James and Meowth jumped at her sudden shout. Let's just attack the Pokémon Center now. Said James nervously, with Meowth nodding in agreement as the balloon descended down towards the Viridian City Pokémon Center. While inside the Pokémon Center, Ash was inside getting his Pokémon back from Nurse Joy, only to be shocked as smoke began filling the Pokémon Center. The trainer quickly sending out his Pikachu in case they were being attacked, with Jessie, James and Meowth descending from their balloon. With Naruto. I have a strange feeling that I did the right thing in leaving Viridian City when I did. Naruto muttered, feeling that it was good he didn't stay in Viridian City for long before he shook his head. Whatever, I'm sure it's nothing. And right now, my focus is getting to Pewter City now. Stated Naruto with a grin. Pewter City is gray, the color of stone. This town has always been famous for its stones. Someone said, making the whiskered blonde freeze before looking over the rock he was sitting on, seeing a small cliff with someone sitting against it. It was a man with tan skin and spiky brown hair covered by a red beanie, which also covered his eyes in shadows, along with a matching colored beard. With him wearing a yellow t-shirt with rolled up sleeves, white gloves, a black belt with a silver buckle, dark teal cargo pants, and black shoes. Naruto also saw a small set of shelves next to him with rocks filling them up, noticing that they also seemed to have price tags. Who are you? Naruto asked warily, hoping he didn't run into another crazy person. The name's Flint and you're sitting on some of my merchandise, young man. Replied Flint, making Naruto glance at the rock he was sitting on. You sell rocks? Stated Naruto, unsure what else to say to that. These aren't just any rocks, these are 100% genuine Pewter City rocks, perfect souvenirs for anyone passing through. And if you want to sit on my merchandise, then you gotta start paying to sit on it. You're already at 2 Kettlers, kid. Flint said, with a whiskered blonde gaining a deadpan expression. You know, this sounds like something a friend of mine would do, only she'd be doing it a lot more tactfully. Naruto said as he got off the rock and pulled out his wallet to pay Flint, remembering the scams Leaf used to pull and occasionally still did. From selling rocks painted to look like evolution stones, along with other random items disguised as evolution items, claws, teeth, and hair of supposedly rare and legendary Pokémon. Even selling bait that was guaranteed to lure out shiny Pokémon. Though Naruto's favorite was when she tricked a bunch of trainers into believing she saw a Raikou and charged them to learn where it was, only to end up being attacked by a swarm of Beedrill. I wonder where Leaf is, right now. Naruto thought, wondering if she's gotten past Viridian City or decided to stay to train up her Pokémon. With Leaf. Meanwhile, Leaf sneezed as she walked through Viridian Forest. I really hope I'm not coming down with a cold or something. Leaf muttered while rubbing her nose, only to scream in panic when Samurai jumped out from tree with a shout and swinging his sword at her. Before Samurai then fell to the ground on his knees, whimpering in pain when Leaf slammed her foot into his crotch, with the female trainer panting and clutching her chest. With her then glaring at Samurai once she'd calmed down. What the hell is your problem? Shouted Leaf, not believing he'd just jump out swinging a sword like that. Just wah wanted tt ba bb ba battle Samurai whimpered as he held his crotch, not expecting that kind of reaction. Well, just ask, next time. And be thankful you only got a kick for almost slicing me, you freaky bug guy. Leaf retorted after noticing his net, guessing he's a bug catcher, before going around him to continue on her way while letting out a huff. Oh, come on. Said Samurai, not believing another person just called him a freaky bug guy. Later with Naruto. After encountering Flint, Naruto made his way to the Pokémon Center to get his Pokémon looked at and healed. Along with getting registered for the Pokémon League, getting a badge case once he was registered and directions to the Pewter City gym. With Naruto finding the front of the building was made of stone, with a pathway lined with rocks. I guess gym leaders really take their Pokémon types seriously. Thought Naruto, knowing the Pewter gym specialized in rock-type Pokémon, making him wonder what the other gyms will look like. Entering the gym, Naruto blinked in confusion at how dark it was inside, being unable to see anything, aside from the shiny blue floor from the light outside. Hello. I'm here to challenge the gym leader. Naruto called out, hoping that he wasn't too late and the gym was already closed for the day, only to see a light turn on across from him, revealing someone sitting on a stone pedestal. The person looked to be an older teenager, spiky brown hair, tan skin, and his eyes looked to be permanently closed or squinting. with him wearing an orange t-shirt, a lime green cargo vest with 4 pockets, a dark brown belt with a gold buckle and dark red pockets, brown jeans and blue-gray sneakers with white trim. "Who goes there?" questioned the teen, with Naruto guessing he must be the gym leader. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I take it you're the gym leader," Naruto replied, with the teen nodding as he stood up. "I am. My name is Brock, the Pewter City gym leader. Though just by looking at you, I take it you're a new trainer, aren't you? And this is your first gym battle, right?" Brock stated, while the whiskered blonde nodding in response. "Yeah, it is. But don't think I'm some rookie, just because I'm new doesn't mean I don't know what to do. I know gym battles are different from regular battles, we're both only allowed to use a certain number of Pokémon, and to win you need to take out all your opponent's Pokémon. The challenger is also allowed to switch out Pokémon in the middle of battle, if they want to," said Naruto, having learned about the rules of gym battles from his parents. "I see you are pretty knowledgeable, but let's see how good that knowledge will do in a battle," said Brock, snapping his fingers, causing the lights to turn on, while the walls opened up on either side of them. With the field of the gym sliding and connecting in the center, the field being a rocky terrain littered with jagged rocks and boulders. Before Brock jumped down from his pedestal on one side of the field across from Naruto. "For this battle, we're both only allowed to use 2 Pokémon, and if you want to win, you'll need to take out both of my Pokémon. But be warned, I'll be doing everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen, so be ready for defeat," Brock said, taking out a Pokeball, while Naruto smirked and grabbed Nidorann's. "I'm ready for anything you've got," replied Naruto, determined to win this battle. "We'll see. Let's go, Geodude," said Brock, throwing the Pokeball and releasing his first Pokémon. Geodude is a brownish-gray boulder Pokémon. It has bulging, rocky eyebrows, trapezoidal, brown eyes, and a wide mouth. Its arms are muscular with 5-fingered hands. Geodude flexed his arms, narrowing his eyes at seeing they had a challenger. "Geodude, huh?" Naruto said, taking out his Pokédex and scanning Geodude. Geodude, the rock Pokémon. Geodude is often found on mountain roads with half of its body buried in the ground so it can observe mountain travelers. "Okay, show 'em what you can do, Nidoran," Naruto said, releasing Nidoran, with the poison pin Pokémon appearing across from Geodude. "Using a poison type against a rock ground type, that may end up costing you. But no matter, let the battle begin. Go Geodude, use tackle," Brock said. "Dude." Geodude instantly charged towards Nidoran to slam his shoulder into him. "Dodge Nidoran and then use focus energy followed by horn attack," said Naruto, with Nidoran quickly jumping out of the way of Geodude. Nidoran's gaze then sharpened as he was surrounded by a blue aura, focusing on where Geodude's weak spot was, before rushing him. Nidoran. Nidoran charged Geodude, slamming his horn into the rock Pokémon, making Geodude grunt at the impact. "We have you now. Geodude, use seismic toss," said Brock, with Geodude's eyes snapping open as he quickly grabbed Nidoran before he could get away. Geodude then flew up into the air, while Nidoran struggled to break free. "Nidoran tried to escape using poison sting," said Naruto, with Nidoran opening his mouth and began firing purple darts at Geodude, who shrugged them off for the most part but gritted his teeth from the poisonous darts hitting him. Geodude soon got high enough before spinning around and throwing Nidoran straight towards the ground, the poison-type Pokémon crying out as he slammed into the field. "Nidoran," Naruto said in worry, looking at his Pokémon for taking such a big hit, with Nidoran getting back up and shaking his head. "Nice one, Geodude. Now use Sandstorm," Brock said, with Geodude letting out a cry as he raised his arms, creating a miniature sandstorm in the gym. "Nidoran, use focus energy and poison sting again," said Naruto, covering his face from the swirling sand, while Nidoran squinted his eyes to block the sand while it was hitting him. Nidoran sharpened his gaze as a blue aura surrounded him, focusing on where Geodude was and his weak spot, before firing more darts at him. "Dodge Geodude and then use rollout," said Brock, making Geodude fly back down to the ground, dodging the darts before he then curled up into a ball. Geodude. Geodude then began spinning around before rolling straight at Nidoran, with the Uzumaki watching this along with where Nidoran was standing. "Nidoran, jump into the air and dodge now," Naruto said once Geodude was close enough, making Nidoran jump up. Leading to Geodude crashing right into one of the boulders, surprising Brock at seeing his Pokémon's attack backfire like that. "Now use double kick," said Naruto, seeing his chance to deal some big damage, with Nidoran flipping twice in the air. "Defense curl now Geodude," Brock said, with Geodude remaining curled up into a ball as his defense went up. Nidoran then launched himself at Geodude, slamming his foot into the rock Pokémon, before slamming his other foot into him as well. Geodude let out a cry from the attack as he was forced out of his ball from the second kick. "Now use poison jab," said Naruto, hoping that Nidoran will be able to use the move. Nido Nidoran rushed Geodude before thrusting his paw forward, with his claws flickering as they glowed purple before finally settled as he jabbed Geodude. The rock ground type crying out from the attack while feeling the poison from the hit spreading through him. Geodude. Use seismic toss again. Brock said, seeing that Geodude was poisoned by poison jab and would need to end the battle quickly before it took him out. Geodude. Geodude managed to focus enough to grab Nidoran before flying up into the air. Nidoran, keep using double kick to break free. Naruto said, not sure if Nidoran would be able to take another seismic toss. Nido ran. Nido ran. Nidoran began kicking Geodude repeatedly as best as he could, making Geodude grit his teeth as he tried keeping his grip. Just hold on, Geodude. Brock said, already having an idea for how to end the battle. Geodude. Geodude nodded to his trainer before he soon got high enough in the air and spun around, throwing Nidoran back towards the ground. Now use rollout, said Brock, making Naruto's eyes widen as Geodude curled into a ball and spun around before launching himself at Nidoran. Nidoran use focus energy and poison jab, said Naruto, knowing those attacks together would definitely take Nidoran out if he didn't do something. Nidoran. Nidoran focused his gaze as he was surrounded by a blue aura before his claws began glowing again. Only to cry out as Geodude slammed into him, propelling both of them towards the ground. Though Nidoran struggled for a moment, he was able to focus enough to jab his claws into Geodude. Just in time as the two Pokémon crashed into the field, kicking him a large cloud of dust. Nidoran. Naruto called out, trying to see if his Pokémon was alright. Geodude, said Brock, also trying to see if Geodude was still standing. But the smoke clearing, along with the sandstorm, allowing both trainers to see Nidoran and Geodude were both still standing, though they were also panting heavily. Then Nido ran. Nidoran panted as he struggled to stay standing, refusing to be defeated now. Geodude used his arms to keep himself up, not intending to go down, until he couldn't keep it up anymore and fell to the ground with swirls in his eyes, making Brock sigh. You did good, Geodude, now return. Brock said, returning Geodude, seeing he wouldn't be able to keep battling. Alright. Way to go, Nidoran, said Naruto, grinning at the poison pin Pokémon, happy they were able to win the first round. I'll admit, I'm impressed. Being able to defeat Geodude, especially when I'd have the type advantage. But this next Pokémon won't be so easy. Go Onix, said Brock, releasing his Pokémon, with Naruto's and Nidoran's eyes widening when they saw the size of it. Onix is a Pokémon composed of a giant chain of gray boulders that become smaller towards the tail. It has black eyes and a rounded snout. On top of its head is a rocky spine. Oh man. Naruto muttered as Onix let out a roar before scanning him with his Pokédex. Onix, the rock snake Pokémon. It tunnels through the ground, which shakes when it raises its thunderous roar. It can move the ground at 50 miles per hour. Nidoran, are you still able to keep going? Naruto asked, not wanting Nidoran to face such a large Pokémon if he's too tired, while Nidoran gulped a little as Onix stared down at him. Then Nidoran. Nidoran though nodded to his trainer, refusing to run even against such a massive opponent. Okay, if you want to keep going, let's give it our all, said Naruto, determined to win the battle when they're so close. Then I hope you're ready. Onix use slam. Brock said, with Onix roaring as he slammed his tail down towards Nidoran. Get out of the way Nidoran and use dig. Naruto said, making Nidoran jump out of the way just in time to avoid Onix's tail. Nido. Nidoran. Nidoran then quickly began digging underground as fast as he could. That's not going to help you. You use dig too, Onix, said Brock. Onix roared as he dove underground, shocking Naruto at how quickly it went underground, before he then reemerged a few seconds later. With Nidoran crying out as Onix sent him flying out from underground and into the air. Nidoran, use focus energy and double kick, said Naruto, with the poison-type Pokémon struggling as he narrowed his eyes and was surrounded by a blue aura, locating Onix's weak spot. Then Nidoran. Nidoran then flipped twice in the air and dived towards Onix, with his foot extended to slam into him. Onix use rock throw. Brock said, making Onix roar as slammed his tail into the field, launching multiple rocks up at Nidoran. Pick off of the rocks and dodge them, Nidoran. Naruto said, worried at how Nidoran's being overwhelmed. With Nidoran managing to get a foothold on one of the rocks and kicked off of it, flipping through the air and landing on another that he kicked off. Before he cried out as another rock slammed into him, knocking Nidoran through the air. Now grab Nidoran and use bind, Onix, said Brock, with the rock snake Pokémon's tail shooting out and wrapping around Nidoran, making him cry out as he was squeezed tightly. Nidoran, said Naruto in worry and concern as Nidoran cried out from how tightly Onix was squeezing him. Okay Onix, throw Nidoran up into the air and finish it with tackle. Brock said, knowing this will end the match. Onyx let out a roar as he threw Nidoran into the air before slamming his head right into the poison pin Pokémon, sending Nidoran crashing into a wall and falling to the floor. Nidoran did his best to try getting back up, only to end up collapsing to the ground with swirls in his eyes, making Naruto sigh before pulling out his Pokeball. "You were great, Nidoran, now get some rest," said Naruto, returning Nidoran. "It looks we're all tied up, so this next battle will decide the winner. I hope you decide carefully on who your next Pokémon will be," said Brock, while Naruto turned to face him and grabbed his next Pokémon. "I haven't. I hope you're ready for them. Let's go, Charmander," Naruto said as he released Charmander. Charmander appeared in front of Onyx, looking in surprise at seeing who he was facing before shaking his head and gaining a determined expression, not caring how big his opponent. "Well, I will say you certainly battle using unique choices," stated Brock with a raised brow, not expecting him to use a fire type of all Pokémon next. "I'll take that as a compliment. Now if you're ready, Charmander, use smokescreen," Naruto said, with Charmander releasing a large thick cloud of black smoke that engulfed Onyx. "Trying to block our view? Well, two can play that game. Onyx use Sandstorm," Brock said. Onyx roared as he unleashed a sandstorm from his body, making Charmander grunt as the sand began pelting his body. Well, the sand caused the smoke to start clearing away, allowing Onyx to see again. "Well, can you do this?" Charmander use Growl, then run up Onyx's body and use Metal Claw, said Naruto, making Brock gain a surprised expression. Charmander let out a loud piercing cry, making Onyx flinch as his attack went down. Before Charmander's claws glowed white and he jumped into the air, landing on top of Onyx and began running up his body towards his head. "Onyx, throw Charmander off with Slam," Brock said, making Onyx start slamming his tail into the ground to try and throw Charmander off, with the lizard Pokémon struggling to stay on Onyx's body. "Charmander, jump onto Onyx's tail," said Naruto, getting an idea, with Charmander doing so and jumping onto Onyx's tail just as he slammed it down. With Onyx then lifting his tail up again, leading to Charmander being launched up into air, making Naruto smirk at the sight. "Now use Metal Claw," Naruto said, surprising Brock at seeing them use Onyx's attack to their advantage. Charmander's claws glowed white as he descended towards Onyx, slashing the rock ground type across the head, making Onyx cry out from the hit. "Onyx used Tackle and then used Dig to get underground," Brock said, with Onyx's eyes narrowing before he roared loudly and slammed his head into Charmander. Charmander cried out as he was thrown back from the attack, grunting as he crashed into the field, while Onyx quickly burrowed underground. The fire type rapidly looked around for any sign of where Onyx would emerge. "Charmander, try and use Will-O-Wisp," Naruto said, knowing it'll at least make sure to burn Onyx when he comes out from hiding. Charmander. Charmander concentrated as blue fireballs began to manifest and float around him, only to end up being able to make 4 of them, the whiskered blonde frowning, but knew it's better than nothing. "Looks like you still need some training on that. But Onyx doesn't need training to do this, Onyx use Bind," said Brock, seeing Will-O-Wisp wasn't perfect before having Onyx attack. The rock snake Pokémon shot out from the ground underneath Charmander, slamming into him, making Charmander cry out from the impact. Though Onyx grunted as the fireballs hit him, inflicting burns on his body, before he then wrapped his tail around the fire-type Pokémon. Charmander let out a cry as Onyx began squeezing him tightly. "Charmander," said Naruto in worry, seeing his starter being crushed now and knew he needed to act fast or else he'll lose the battle. "It's no use, once Onyx has you wrapped in bind, there's no escape. Your only choice is to surrender," Brock said, making Naruto grit his teeth, only to soon get an idea on how to free Charmander. "Then I'll be the first to escape. Charmander use Growl," Naruto said, with Charmander gritting his teeth and tried focusing on attacking. Charmander released a loud piercing cry, making Onyx flinch as his attack went down again, but still kept his hold on Charmander. "Now use Ember and shoot the fireball right into Onyx's mouth," said Naruto, much to Brock's shock at the sudden order. Charmander charged up a fireball before shooting it straight into Onyx's mouth, the rock snake Pokémon having no time to dodge as his eyes widened. Before Onyx cried out as his mouth was burned from the fire, with Charmander also being released much to his relief. "What?" Brock said in disbelief at the unexpected move. "Rock and ground types might resist fire type attacks, but I don't think their insides are as resistant. Now use Metal Claw, Charmander, and attack Onyx all the way up to his head," said Naruto with a smirk, while Charmander landed on Onyx's body as his claws began glowing white. Charmander. Charmander began running up Onyx's body, slashing him repeatedly with his claws, feeling his power grow every few hits until the lizard Pokémon reached Onyx's head and jumped up. Charmander then brought his claws straight down on Onyx, making the rock ground type cry out and start falling back. "Onyx," said Brock in concern for his Pokémon, with Onyx managing to catch himself from falling to the ground but still felt himself growing tired and weak from the damage. "Now use smokescreen, Charmander," Naruto said, with Charmander releasing a cloud of black smoke that engulfed Onyx. "Onyx use rock throw," said Brock. Onyx let out a roar as he slammed his tail into the ground, launching multiple rocks straight at Charmander. "Dodge them, Charmander, and use growl again," said Naruto. Charmander. Charmander quickly began running to avoid the rocks while letting out a loud piercing cry, making Onyx flinch and lower his attack again. Though Charmander cried out when some of the rocks still crashed into him, knocking him down, leaving the fire-type Pokémon to try and shield himself. "Now's your chance, Onyx. Use Slam," Brock said, seeing Charmander was pinned down while Onyx brought his tail down on top of Charmander. "Roll out of the way to dodge a Charmander, then use a regular ember at Onyx's face," Naruto said, with Charmander managing to roll out of the way of Onyx's tail just in time. Charmander. Charmander then began shooting several smaller fireballs at Onyx's face. The rock ground type instantly closed his mouth to avoid any more getting inside him. Only to grunt and cry out as the fireballs slammed into his face and eyes, making Onyx shut his burning eyes and thrash around. "Now let's finish it, Charmander. Run up Onyx's body to his head and use Iron Tail," said Naruto, hoping the next attack will be able to end the battle. Charmander got up and jumped onto Onyx's body before running up to his head, doing his best to not be thrown off from Onyx's movements. With the lizard Pokémon then jumping into the air once he was close enough as his tail and flame began glowing white. Charmander flipped in the air and slammed his tail into Onyx's head. Only for his eyes to widen as just before his tail impacted Onyx, the glow vanished as his iron tail failed, with Naruto's eyes widening as well at this. "Get out of there, Charmander," said Naruto, seeing Charmander was now completely defenseless in the air. "I don't think so. Onyx use Slam," Brock said, seeing their chance to counterattack, while Onyx's eyes snapped open as the burning feeling faded. Roaring loudly, Onyx grabbed Charmander with his tail before slamming him into the ground, making the fire-type Pokémon cry out as he was smashed into the ground. "Now, use Rock Tomb," said Brock, knowing this next attack will end things. Onyx's body was outlined with a white glow as he raised his head, while multiple grey rocks outlined in white energy formed around his head in the shape of a ring. "Dodge it, Charmander," Naruto said, with Charmander trying to get back up from getting hit by Onyx's tail and hitting the ground. Though Charmander was unable to dodge in time as Onyx roared before launching the rock straight at him. With Charmander crying out as all the rocks slammed into him repeatedly, sending him crashing back into the ground. "Charmander," said Naruto in worry for his starter as he was engulfed in a cloud of dirt from the repeated impacts. Once the cloud faded, it showed Charmander lying on the ground with swirls in his eyes, making Naruto look down at seeing he just lost. "And that's the match. Onyx return," Brock said, returning Onyx to his Pokeball, with Naruto doing the same to Charmander. "You were amazing, Charmander," Naruto said, happy at the fight Charmander was able to put up against Onyx, despite feeling chagrined at losing his first gym battle. "I have to say, that was certainly one of the most intense battles I've had in a while, even more so against Pokémon that Geodude and Onyx would normally have the advantage against," said Brock, impressed at how strong Naruto's Pokémon already were. "Thanks, but I still lost," replied Naruto, having hoped he'd win the battle. "Yeah, you did. But don't let the losses get to you, take them as learning experiences to train even harder. In fact, if that Iron Tail hadn't failed, then it's very likely you would have won the battle. All you need to do is train your Pokémon some more and master their moves," Brock said, lifting Naruto's spirits a little that he could have won if he just did some more training. Before Brock looked at his watch when it went off, turning it off and then looking back at the Uzumaki. "Sorry to cut things short. But I'll be closing the gym for the day in case you were hoping for a rematch later today since I have some errands I need to run," said Brock, with Naruto nodding in understanding. "It's fine, I need to take Charmander and Nidoran to the Pokémon Center and then get some more training done," Naruto replied as he left the gym, feeling more determined than ever to train his Pokémon. Later. After getting his Pokémon healed at the Pokémon Center, Naruto had gone to get some training done, focusing primarily on having his team master their moves. Not wanting to risk having another battle where their attacks could fail because they weren't properly mastered. With Naruto training until he noticed the sun was starting to set, making him recall his Pokémon before going to get some shopping done. Figuring if he's going to be staying in Pewter City longer than he expected, he could take the chance to get some more supplies, knowing he could never be too careful. Though as he was shopping, the Uzumaki soon caught sight of Brock carrying some bags. "Hey Brock," Naruto called out, making the gym leader stop and look at him. "Huh? Oh, hey Naruto," getting some shopping done, yourself. Brock stated, seeing the bags the whiskered blonde was holding. Yeah, since while I still have plenty of supplies, you can never have too much when traveling. What about you? Naruto asked, with Brock nodding at his reasoning. Just picking up some last-minute things for dinner, I have a lot of cook for me and my siblings. Replied Brock, getting Naruto's attention. Siblings? Questioned Naruto. Yeah, I have 9 younger siblings, 5 brothers and 4 sisters, the youngest 2 being twins. So I usually end up doing a lot of shopping. Brock said, much to the Uzumaki's surprise at hearing how many siblings he had. You know, if you want, you could even join us for dinner since you'll be sticking around for a while. Offered Brock, intrigued to learn more about Naruto given how unpredictable he was during their battle, not only in the Pokémon he used, but their attacks as well. You sure? I wouldn't want to intrude or anything. Naruto said, only for Brock to wave it off. It's fine, really. Besides, I'm sure they'd like the chance to meet one of my opponents since they usually watch me whenever I battle. Brock said, with Naruto thinking it over for a few moments. If you're sure, then yeah, I'll join you all. Naruto replied with a smile, which Brock returned. Great, we'll be glad to have you join us. I just need to pick up a few more things and we'll head to my home. Said Brock before the two went to finish their shopping. Later. Once they'd finished their shopping, Brock had lead Naruto to his home, which was behind the pewter gym. Hey everyone. I'm home. Brock called out, with Naruto soon hearing the sound of several feet running across the ground before seeing 9 kids appear and run straight towards Brock. Brock, you're home. What did you do today? Did you get any more challengers to battle? I bet you beat anyone that showed up. Easy guys, I'm carrying stuff and you don't want anything to fall out. Brock said while smiling at his siblings as they crowded around him as the whiskered blonde smiled at the sight, seeing how close they all were. Brock, who's this? Asked who Naruto guessed was the second oldest after Brock, with the others soon turning towards Naruto as well. Guys, this is Naruto Uzumaki, he was a challenger that came by the gym today. Naruto, these are my younger siblings, Forest, Salvador, Yolanda, Tommy, Cindy, Susie, Timmy, and the twins Billy and Tilly. Brock introduced. You challenged Brock? Tommy asked. Yeah, I did, it was a really tough battle too. Replied Naruto, smiling at the kids. Oh, we missed seeing Brock battle. Said Timmy, disappointed that they didn't get to see Brock battle. But if you're here, does that mean you lost? Susie said curiously. Yeah, he lost. There's no way Brock would lose. Said Billy, believing their brother did win. Now don't go saying that, Naruto actually almost did win, I just got lucky with one of his attacks not being perfected yet. And I'm sure our rematch will be just as intense. Brock said, making his siblings look at him in surprise that he almost lost. Are you really that strong? Yolanda asked. Well, I'm still a new trainer, but I've been giving it my all in training my Pokémon since I started my journey. In fact, you can see for yourselves how strong my Pokémon are. Said Naruto before he let out Charmander, Nidoran, and Pikachu. Charmander looked around in confusion at where they were, only to notice Brock's siblings. The Charmander? Cool, it looks even cuter in person. Said Cindy smiling at seeing a Charmander. Wow, and Nidoran. They're really awesome when they evolve into Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Salvador said, looking at Nidoran. And Nidoran. Nidoran looked around warily, not used to being around this many people. Pikachu? Oh, look at how adorable it is. Tilly said, smiling as she hugged Pikachu. Brock smiled as his siblings surrounded Naruto's Pokémon, nodding in thanks to the Uzumaki as he headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Don't crowd around them so much. They're friendly, but you don't want to make Pokémon uncomfortable by surrounding them. Said Naruto as he went to the kitchen as well, not wanting to leave making everything to Brock. Hey Brock, do you need some help? Naruto asked, making Brock look at him as he got everything ready. You can cook. Said Brock, the whiskered blonde nodding in response. Yeah, I was taught to do a lot of things to prepare for my Pokémon journey, with cooking being one of the first things I learned. And I was taught to make some pretty awesome recipes, too. Replied Naruto, getting the gym leader's interest at what he could make. And sure, it'll be good to have some help and make things faster. Brock replied, with Naruto nodding as he began gathering things to prepare the dish he'll make. Though Naruto couldn't help but look back into the living room, frowning slightly how he didn't see anyone else or any sign that anyone would be showing up. Along with how Brock fell naturally into fixing dinner, making Naruto guess he's done this a lot before. Brock, if you don't mind me asking, where are your parents? Are they working or Naruto asked, unsure if this was a personal matter or if something happened to them. My parents aren't in Pewter City, honestly I don't know where they are at the moment. My dad was the Pewter City gym leader, but he left it to go on his own Pokémon journey and become a powerful trainer, leaving me to take over the gym. And my mom left too, wanting to have her own journey and focus on her art and traveling. With both of them gone, I'm left in charge of both the gym and looking after my siblings," revealed Brock, much to Naruto's shock. "Seriously? They just left you in charge of everything?" said Naruto, not believing any parents would just pack up and leave their children behind for their own desires. "Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I love and admire my parents, both of them are powerful trainers that I respect. But I do wish they'd take things more seriously sometimes and not randomly leave all the time. Honestly, I didn't even want to take over as gym leader, what I really wanted to do was become a Pokémon breeder. To learn all the best ways to care for and raise Pokémon. But with my responsibility to my siblings and the gym, I can't leave to learn more," Brock said, making Naruto frown at hearing this. "I'm really sorry to hear that," Naruto said, with Brock waving it off. "It's fine, really. Despite the circumstances, I really enjoy spending time with my siblings and making sure they're happy. As long as they're happy, I'm content," replied Brock, willing to do anything to make sure his siblings were happy and looked after. Before he looked at the dish Naruto was making, curious to see it had rice, sauce, noodles, vegetables, and meat being added to it. With Brock being unable to figure out what exactly it was he's making, only that it did smell really good. "Naruto, what exactly is that dish you're making? I've never seen anything like it before," Brock said, with Naruto smiling as he cooked. "It's called curry. It's something I learned to make from my dad, since he's originally from the Galar region," Naruto replied. "Galar?" questioned Brock, having never heard of that region before. "Yeah, it's a really far-off region, and curry is really popular there to the point there are a large variety of different kinds of recipes for it, since you can add practically anything you'd want to it. Berries, fruits, vegetables, eggs, bread, pasta, mushrooms, herbs, cheese, spices, milk, anything really to experiment and create new recipes and flavors. And I'm making one of my personal favorite variations, ramen curry," explained Naruto, eager to be able to make ramen curry. "Well, if it tastes as good as it smells, I'm sure it'll be amazing," Brock stated with a smile. "It will, trust me," Naruto said as they continued cooking. It wasn't long before they finished making dinner before getting everything set up, with Brock calling in his siblings and Naruto doing the same for his Pokémon. "What is this?" Forest asked as Naruto gave everyone a serving of curry. "It's curry, trust me, you're all gonna love it," replied Naruto with grin, giving his Pokémon some as well, since his parents told him how it could help them grow stronger and energize them. Once everyone sat down, they dug into the food, with Brock and his siblings stopping when they took their first bite of the curry before they all eagerly began digging in. With Charmander, Nidoran, and Pikachu doing the same, loving the taste and all the different flavors. Feeling all their energy they used during training returning with each bite. "Wow. You weren't kidding, this curry is amazing. I can see why it'd be so popular in Galar," Brock said, not believing how good it was. "Yeah. This is super good, thank you Naruto," said Forest, enjoying it just as much. "Thank you Naruto," the others said as they happily ate, making the Uzumaki smile and nod in thanks. "No problem, and there's still more where that came from. And if you want I can give you the recipe, Brock, along with my parents' phone number, since they have a lot more curry recipes and are always making new ones," offered Naruto, with Brock nodding in appreciation. "That'd be really great, thanks Naruto," replied Brock, eager for the chance to learn how to make curry and even try making his own recipes once he learns how to do it. Later. Once dinner was over, Naruto returned his Pokémon to their Pokeballs, while also giving Brock the recipe for ramen curry and his parents' numbers. "Thanks again for having me over, it was really great meeting you all," Naruto said, smiling at the kids and shaking Brock's hand. "No problem, we're glad to have you over and thanks for the recipe," Brock replied, with Naruto nodding in response. "No problem. And when the time comes for our rematch, I'll be sure to give it my all," said Naruto, determined that next time he will win against Brock. "I'm looking forward to it and seeing the results of your training when the time comes. Just don't expect it to be any easier," said Brock, sharing his enthusiasm for their rematch. Exchanging goodbyes with them, Naruto headed back towards the Pokémon Center to get some rest after such a long day. "Tomorrow, we'll be getting a lot more training done, my team still needs to master their moves and grow even stronger to face off against Brock's Pokémon. And next time will be different," Naruto thought, knowing that he and his Pokémon had a lot of training to do to prepare for his eventual rematch against Brock. 5 days have passed since Naruto arrived in Pewter City, along with having lost his gym battle against Brock. Since then, the whiskered blonde had spent all his time training his Pokémon to be much stronger and prepared for his rematch against Brock. Along with having called his parents the day after he arrived in Pewter City, letting them know what's happened since he last called them. With Minato and Kishino offering their encouragement that he'll do better in his rematch, as well as some advice to help improve his training. Something that Naruto was grateful for. Naruto had mainly focused on having them master their moves. knowing that had been his main problem against Brock, that they still hadn't fully mastered their attacks yet. Though he's also now begun working on Charmander learning Dragon Breath and Dragon Rage, as well as trying to unlock Dragon Dance. Given that Brock would now be prepared for the other coverage moves he's taught his Pokémon, Naruto knew he'd need more surprises to use against him. Along with having learned that Dragon Breath and Dragon Rage are actually basic Dragon-type attacks. Which surprised Naruto, but also knew that'd make it at least a little easier for Charmander to learn them. And with the power boost he'll get from Dragon Dance, combined with the power from Dragon Breath and Dragon Rage, it should help them turn the tides when the time comes. But while he's been focusing a lot on Charmander's training, the Uzumaki wasn't neglecting Nidorann's and Pikachu's training, having researched some new moves they could learn as well. Eventually deciding to have Nidoran work on learning Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam, two very powerful moves that'll really be useful. Along with the majority of Nidorann's other moves involved him getting up close to opponents, aside from Poison Sting. Something his battle with Brock showed could be dangerous if opponents could grab hold of Nidoran. As for Pikachu, Naruto was having him work on learning agility to boost his speed even further, along with trying to unlock electric terrain. Both being good support moves, allowing Pikachu to move much faster than he already can and boosting his electric-type attacks. As for the other moves they were learning, Charmander and Pikachu were getting better at maintaining Iron Tail, and Nidoran was getting faster at using Dig. Along with Charmander creating more fireballs with Will-O-Wisp, as well as stronger ones to inflict more intense burns. And Nidoran's Poison Jab is getting stronger as well, increasing the chances of poisoning opponents. Though Naruto also wanted them to get more experience in using their attacks in actual battles, rather than using them against targets and objects. Leading to the Uzumaki heading back to the Pokémon Center and the battlefields, wanting to see if any trainers there would want to battle him. Hopefully, trainers that had any rock-type and ground-type Pokémon to better prepare against Brock's own. Once he arrived, Naruto saw plenty of trainers were already present. Seeing that a few were battling, others were trading tips for training, along with a few discussing and trading Pokémon. As well as several that were just watching the battles taking place. Hey, does anyone here have rock-type and/or ground-type Pokémon? If so, I would like to battle them. Naruto said, getting some of the trainers to look at him before a couple got up. Yeah, I've got a ground type. I'm guessing you're planning to take on Brock. Said the trainer, with Naruto nodding in a response. A rematch, actually. I want to get more experience in battling rock types and ground types, and I'm taking on any opponents. Naruto replied. Then let's see what you've got. The trainer said with a smirk as they went over to one of the battlefields and stood across from each other. Come on out, Charmander. Said Naruto while sending out Charmander. Charmander let out a cry and saw that they were now battling someone, the lizard Pokémon ready to show how much stronger he's gotten. I see why you want to get experience if you intend to battle Brock with a fire type. Go Fanfi. Said the trainer, sending out their own Pokémon. It was a small Horizon Blue Proboscis Pokémon. It has large floppy ears, which it uses as fans to cool itself. There are 2 red pads on each ear and another on the bridge of its short trunk. It had single nail on each of its 4 feet and a short tail. Fanfi. Fanfi smiled as it flapped its ears, while Naruto looked at it in surprise. A Fanfi? Naruto said before pulling out his Pokédex and scanning Fanfi. Fanfi, the long-nosed Pokémon. Fanfi uses its powerful snout to express affection, not realizing its strength can send you flying. Yeah, you don't expect to see many of them here in Kanto, but they're a lot more common in the neighboring Johto region. Now, ready? Said the trainer, with Naruto nodding as he put his Pokédex away. Yeah. Charmander use Metal Claw. Naruto said, with Charmander charging at Fanfi with his claws glowing white. Use Defense Curl, Fanfi. Said the trainer. Fanfi quickly curled up into a ball with a yellow outline surrounding it, just as Charmander reached the long-nosed Pokémon and began slashing it with his claws. Now use Rollout. The trainer said, causing Fanfi to start spinning at high speed. Dodge it, Charmander. Said Naruto, knowing it'd be really damaging to get hit from that close. Only for it to be too late as Fanfi slammed right into Charmander, knocking the fire type back. Charmander, dig your feet into the ground, then try and grab Fanfi. Naruto said, hoping that this would work. Charmander. Charmander gritted his teeth as he tried regaining his footing as Fanfi kept rolling against him. Before he eventually managed to press his feet into the ground before then grabbing hold of Fanfi, gritting his teeth again as Fanfi kept spinning despite his grip. Now throw Fanfi into the air behind you. Said Naruto, making the trainer's eyes widen. Fanfi, stop using Rollout and use Flail. The trainer said, with Fanfi uncurling from its ball. Only for this to prove to be a mistake as with Fanfi no longer spinning, Charmander managed to get a better grip on the ground-type Pokémon. Charmander gave a cry as he spun around and threw Fanfi up into the air. Now use a focused ember, Charmander. Naruto said, with Charmander powering up before unleashing a large and concentrated fireball at Fanpy. Fanpy used defense curl again, then use bulldoze. Said the trainer, making Fanpy curl up into a ball again and be surrounded by a yellow outline, just as the fireball hit. Fanpy let out a cry from the fireball impacting it, feeling its body being burned from the intense heat. Though the long-nosed Pokémon was able to focus enough before throwing itself towards the ground, slamming down hard and unleashing a series of yellow shockwaves from its impact. With the shockwaves speeding towards Charmander. Not only knocking the fire type off balance, but throwing him back as well. Now use growl. The trainer said while Charmander was flying through the air. Hi. Fanpy uncurled itself before letting out a loud cry, releasing white shockwaves from its mouth as it did so. But Charmander flinching from the loud cry as his attack went down, before grunting as he slammed into the ground. And next, use flail Fanpy. Said the trainer, making Fanpy charge forward towards Charmander. You use growl too Charmander. Naruto said, with Charmander standing up and narrowing his eyes. Charmander let out a loud piercing cry, making Fanpy flinch as its attack went down, though the ground type kept charging forward. Fanpy slammed into Charmander before it began flailing around, striking Charmander with its legs, trunk, ears, body, any part it could hit the lizard Pokémon with. Charmander use Metal Claw. Said Naruto. Charmander. Charmander tried focusing in between Fanpy's assault before finding a moment to strike and swung his glowing claws, stopping Fanpy's attack. Charmander. Charmander didn't stop at one strike though, as he kept slashing at Fanpy while feeling his power growing a few times, increasing the damage of his strikes. Fanpy, use defense curl and roll out. The trainer said, with Fanpy quickly rolling into a ball and be surrounded by a yellow outline. Fanpy then charged at Charmander. Jump back Charmander and use Will-O-Wisp. Naruto said, the fire-type Pokémon jumping back just in time, avoiding Fanpy crashing into him. Charmander Charmander. Charmander then began shooting blue fireballs at Fanpy, the ground type crashing through each one of them and being burned. Jump into the air to avoid the fireballs Fanpy. Said the trainer, with Fanpy bouncing up off the ground and into the air to avoid the remaining fireballs, before diving straight towards Charmander. Use smokescreen, Charmander, then dodge. Said Naruto. Charmander released a thick cloud of black smoke at Fanpy before jumping out of the way. Fanpy used bulldoze. The trainer said, just as Fanpy dived through the smoke where it thought Charmander was. Fanpy slammed into the ground, unleashing a series of yellow shockwaves that rushed towards Charmander, knocking the fire-type Pokémon off balance and through the air. Now use rollout again. Said the trainer, with Fanpy spinning around and turning straight towards Charmander before speeding at him. Use a concentrated ember Charmander. Naruto said, making Charmander unleash a powerful fireball as Fanpy rushed him. Use defense curl and charge straight through the fireball Fanpy. The trainer said. Fanpy tightened itself up further into a ball as a yellow outline surrounded it, boosting its defense even further before it charged through the fireball. Charmander, use Iron Tail. Said Naruto, knowing now was the chance to use Iron Tail and see if Charmander could really use it. Charmander jumped up as his tail and flame began flickering, while Fanpy grew closer towards him. Charmander's tail and flame then glowed a bright white just in time as Fanpy reached the lizard Pokémon. With the two attacks colliding against each other, Fanpy spinning and pushing as hard as it could against Charmander's tail. Charmander then gave a shout as he slammed his tail down on Fanpy, sending the ground-type Pokémon crashing into the ground, kicking up a large dust cloud. Fanpy? The trainer said, looking through the dust for their Pokémon before it began clearing, revealing Fanpy laying on the ground with swirls in its eyes. Fanpy. Alright. We did it, Charmander. Naruto cheered, happy they won the battle and seeing that Charmander could use Iron Tail in battle. Charmander smiled along with his trainer, pleased to see the progress he's made in action, while the trainer sighed and returned Fanpy to its Pokeball. You did good, Fanpy. Said the trainer before they approached Naruto and held out their hand. Great battle. You and your Charmander are definitely a strong team. The trainer said, with Naruto shaking their hand and nodding in agreement. Thanks, your Fanpy is also pretty tough too. And thanks for the battle. Naruto replied, the trainer nodded in response before heading back into the Pokémon Center to get his Pokémon healed. So, who's next? Naruto asked, looking at the other trainers that stood up before one of them stepped forward. That'll be me. Let's rock, Sandshrew. Said the trainer, sending out their own Pokémon while Naruto kept Charmander out. With Naruto managing to win the battle as well, while having Charmander use Iron Tail more often now that he could use it for real now. Only for Charmander to end up losing against the next opponent who used a Pseudo-Udo, another Pokémon found in the Johto region. with it proving to be much stronger than Fanpy and Sandshrew had been, though Naruto was able to take it down with Nidoran. Along with the Geodude the trainer had sent out next. The trainer after that requested for a double battle, which Naruto accepted, sending out Pikachu along with Nidoran. While his opponent sent out two other new Pokémon called Nosepass and Webble, Nosepass being from the Hone region and Webble being from a far-off region called Unova. But while Nidoran and Pikachu put up a good fight and managed to take out Webble, Nosepass proved strong enough to defeat them both in their weakened states. After that, Naruto took a short break to let his Pokémon rest and recover with some potions before taking on his next opponent. Sending out Charmander again to face off against their Onix, succeeding in taking Onix down as it wasn't as strong as Brock's own. Only for them to then send out a Rhyhorn, with it taking out Charmander and Nidoran. Before Naruto was able to finally defeat Rhyhorn with Pikachu, using his own Iron Tail to deliver the final blow. Though Pikachu was taken out by Rhyhorn at the same time, resulting in a loss for Naruto since his opponent still had one last Pokémon. The next opponent proved to be really tough, first using a Gligar, another Pokémon from Johto, and then a Cubone. With Pikachu managing to take out Gligar before being defeated by Cubone, though Charmander rested enough to defeat Cubone afterwards, if barely. Now though, Naruto was on his final opponent with the match being a 3-on-3 battle. His opponent having used a Diglett and a Baltoy, with Diglett taking out Pikachu before being defeated by Nidoran, only to then lose against Baltoy. Leaving Naruto with just Charmander, who succeeded in defeating Baltoy. I have to admit, you've done really well, despite using Pokémon that are weaker and effective against rock types and ground types. Stated the trainer as they returned Baltoy. Thanks, I'm just glad to see how far my Pokémon have come in their training and getting plenty of experience against rock type and ground type Pokémon. Naruto replied, knowing these battles will go a long way for him during his rematch. Well, I'm sure regardless of the losses, you'll definitely be ready when you go against Brock. But first let's see if you can handle my last Pokémon. Go Mudbray. Said the trainer, sending out their last Pokémon. It was a quadrupedal equine Pokémon resembling a small donkey. It has a dark brown coat with a cream-colored underbelly, muzzle, and circular markings on each cheek. A short teardrop-shaped blaze extends up from its muzzle, and it has long pointed ears with pink insides. Its large eyes have horizontal pupils. Black bangs hang over its face before turning into a stiff mane along its neck. Additionally, it has a short black tail. Thick, cream-colored mud surrounds each black hoof. Mudbray. Mudbray stood up on its hind legs, kicking its front legs in the air before going back to the ground. "A Mudbray," said Naruto, pulling out his Pokédex and scanning Mudbray. Mudbray, the donkey Pokémon. Mudbray are stubborn and independent. Their daily routine includes eating dirt and frolicking in the mud they kick up. Mudbray, here, comes all the way from the Alola region, it's even farther away than Unova, and is filled with Pokémon that are nearly impossible to see anywhere else. Said the trainer, much to Naruto's amazement. I might have to visit that region one day, then. Naruto said, liking the idea of seeing so many rare Pokémon. Then be ready for a lot of surprises. But now, let's battle. Mudbray use Mud Slap. The trainer said. Mudbray. Mudbray began shooting several mudballs at Charmander. Counter it with Ember, Charmander. Then get in close to use Metal Claw. Said Naruto, with Charmander shooting several fireballs that collided against the mudballs, stopping both attacks. Charmander then charged at Mudbray with his claws glowing white. Use Bulldoze now, Mudbray. Said the trainer. Bray. Mudbray reared back before slamming its hooves on the ground, unleashing a shockwave that rushed towards Charmander. Jump into the air to dodge it, Charmander. Naruto said. Charmander quickly jumped into the air, avoiding the shockwave just before it hit before diving towards Mudbray, making the trainer smirk. Now use double kick Mudbray. The trainer said, making Mudbray turn around and lift its back legs up. Mudbray. Mudbray then slammed one of its legs into Charmander, before then slamming the other one into him, sending the lizard Pokémon flying back and crashing into the ground. Charmander. Naruto exclaimed while looking at his starter, hoping he's alright, with Charmander getting back up and shaking his head from the hits. Keep it up Mudbray, use Rock Smash. Said the trainer, with Mudbray being surrounded by an orange glow before it charged at Charmander. Beat the attack with Metal Claw, Charmander. Naruto said, getting an idea. Charmander. Charmander charged at Mudbray with his claws glowing white before jumping up and swinging his claws at Mudbray. Mudbray slammed into Charmander just as the fire type swung his claws with the two attacks colliding together. Now flip over Mudbray and use Iron Tail. Said Naruto, surprising the trainer, while Charmander leveraged himself on Mudbray to flip over it. Mudbray use Iron Defense. The trainer said quickly as Mudbray gained a glowing white outline as its body briefly shined, increasing its defense. Charmander's tail and flame then glowed a bright white before he slammed it down onto Mudbray's back. Bray. Mudbray let out a cry as it crashed into the ground from the impact of the iron tail, even with its increased defense. Charmander, jump into the air now and use Ember. Said Naruto, making Charmander jump up into the air. Charmander Charmander. Charmander jumped up off of Mudbray's back before he began shooting fireballs at the donkey Pokémon. Mudbray use Mud Shot. Said the trainer, with Mudbray managing to get back up from the ground. Mudbray. Mudbray then began shooting mudballs at the fireballs, stopping them from reaching it. Now use Rock Smash on the ground. The trainer said, making the ground type rear back into the air. Mudbray. Mudbray slammed its hooves down onto the ground, breaking it open and launching rocks into the air at Charmander. Charmander let out a cry as the rock smashed into him before he fell back to the ground. Use Stomp, next. Said the trainer, upon seeing Charmander falling to the ground. Mudbray ran at Charmander and jumped into the air to slam its hooves down on him. Charmander used Growl then Smokescreen. Naruto said. Charmander. Charmander let out a loud piercing cry, making Mudbray flinch as its attack went down. Before it was then engulfed in a thick cloud of black smoke, blocking Mudbray's view before it slammed its hooves down on where it thought Charmander still was. Only to end up slamming its hooves down on the ground while Charmander jumped out of the smoke cloud. Now use Will-O-Wisp Charmander. Said Naruto, making Charmander start shooting blue fireballs into the smoke. Get out of there now Mudbray. Said the trainer. Bray. Mudbray Bray. Mudbray ran out of the smoke, only to cry out a few times as it was hit by the fireballs and burned by them, but was able to escape the smoke. Charmander use Metal Claw next. Naruto said. Charmander ran at Mudbray with his claws glowing white. Mudbray use Rock Smash. The trainer said, with Mudbray slamming its hooves down on the ground again, launching several rocks at Charmander. With the fire-type Pokémon swinging his claws and breaking the rocks as he continued on towards Mudbray. Now use Mud Shot. Said the trainer once Charmander was close enough. Mudbray shot several mudballs at Charmander, who had no time to dodge as the mudballs crashed into him. Charmander let out a cry as he was launched back by the mudballs, with the mud getting into his eyes and blinding him. Next use Bulldoze, Mudbray. The trainer said. Bray. Mudbray reared back before its hooves into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that traveled towards Charmander and impacted him, sending Charmander skidding across the ground. Charmander. Naruto said in concern for his starter, with Charmander slowly getting back up and wiping away the mud in his eyes. Keep it up, Mudbray. Use Iron Defense and Rock Smash. Said the trainer, with Mudbray's body being surrounded by a white outline before its body shined as its defense went up. Mudbray's body then gained an orange outline as it charged at Charmander. Charmander use Growl. Said Naruto, having waited until Mudbray was close enough as Charmander let out a loud piercing cry that caused Mudbray to flinch as its attack went down. Now use a concentrated Ember. Naruto said. Charmander powered up before firing a large and concentrated point-blank fireball at Mudbray, leaving it no time to dodge. Bray. Mudbray let out a cry as it was thrown back by the fireball, with it intensifying the burns it got from Will-O-Wisp. Now let's end it with Iron Tail. Said Naruto, with Charmander jumping into the air as his tail and flame glowed a bright white. Mudbray used Double Kick. The trainer said, while Mudbray slowly got up and tried pushing aside the damage it's taken. Mudbray ran at Charmander, quickly turning around and lifted up its back legs before kicking on forward just as Charmander swung his tail. Charmander's tail collided against Mudbray's leg, only for the donkey Pokémon to cry out as it was thrown back. But Charmander's tail pushing past Mudbray's kick and impacting its body, sending Mudbray flying back before crashing into the ground. Mudbray. Said the trainer looking at their Pokémon in worry. Mudbray tried getting back up, only to fall onto the ground with swirls in its eyes, making the trainer sigh before returning Mudbray. Way to go Charmander. Said Naruto while smiling at the lizard Pokémon, happy to see how much he's improved. Charmander smiled as well, feeling even stronger after all the battles. Good battle, your Pokémon have definitely gotten better at battling rock types and ground types after all that. The trainer said as they shook hands. Thanks, your Mudbray was really strong too. And if all the Pokémon in Alola are like that, then I'll definitely be visiting it. Naruto replied, making the trainer chuckle and nod. You'll see plenty of strong Pokémon, along with some familiar ones. Though be ready for some that look pretty different. Said the trainer with a smirk before going into the Pokémon Center to get their Pokémon healed. While Naruto was curious about what they meant seeing familiar Pokémon that'd look different before shaking head and returning Charmander to his Pokeball. Knowing after all the battling and training, his Pokémon will definitely need time to rest and recover. Later. After leaving his Pokémon with Nurse Joy, Naruto decided to take a look around Pewter City to see what there was to see in the city. Given he spent most of his time focusing on training, he didn't really take the time to look around and see what there was. I did hear there was a museum filled with Pokémon fossils. Maybe I'll go check that out later. Naruto thought, interested in seeing Pokémon fossils and the kind of Pokémon that existed in the past. Though before he could decide on what to do, the Uzumaki noticed a growing crowd of trainers that were gathering around something. Curious of what was going on, Naruto went up to the crowd, moving until he could see what they were all looking at. Only to stop and mentally facepalm when he saw what was happening. You really haven't changed, Leaf. Naruto thought, seeing that it was Leaf sitting behind a stand, pulling off another one of her scams. Though it'd be hard for anyone to recognize her as Leaf, with her wearing a bandana over her hair, large glasses covered her eyes, and a coat over her body that hid her clothes. Well, the stand she was at was filled with all different kinds of Pokeballs. But Naruto was more sure they were just regular Pokeballs painted to look like different ones, or potentially even just round objects she found that could pass as Pokeballs. Deciding to just let Leaf carry on, Naruto moved back to avoid being seen, but still close enough to hear what she's saying. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. And get your pick at my selection of Pokeballs. Are you looking to go traveling through caves or hoping to find some Pokémon that only come out at night? Then try the Dusk Ball, perfect for catching any Pokémon that's hiding in the darkness. Or perhaps you're looking to catch a Pokémon quickly to avoid a long drawn-out battle. The Quick Ball is for you then, throw one of these and before you know it, you'll have a new teammate in no time. I have Pokeballs for any situation, Dive Balls for water-type enthusiasts, Heal Balls for those that want to heal their Pokémon in an instant, and Dream Balls for those lucky enough to find a sleeping Pokémon to avoid battling entirely. Get them while you can, because supplies are limited. Leaf said enthusiastically, while mentally cackling as the trainers all eagerly began paying for the different Pokeballs she had. None of them even realizing that she's charging almost double what they'd normally cost. But given how most of them were new trainers or still beginners, they simply thought they were expensive due to how much better they were compared to regularly Pokeballs. You know, I almost feel bad for conning them out of what's likely hard-earned money. Yeah, I can't even lie to myself, this is too much fun. Leaf thought once she sold the last of her Pokeballs. Before she made sure no one was around and discarded her disguise, putting her hat back on, smirking as she counted on how much she's now earned. This will certainly help me in getting the real versions of those Pokeballs later on and some TMs for my team. Stated Leaf, pleased at how her newest scam earned her a lot more money. You know if you keep this up, eventually you're gonna get in trouble. Naruto said, stepping out after all the trainers left, while Leaf froze and paled upon seeing that someone was still here and caught her ripping off those trainers. I didn't do anything, I swear. I didn't know they were fake Pokeballs. Someone gave them to me and told me to sell them. I was tricked and framed. Leaf said, shooting up to her feet, panicking that she'd been caught and would get in trouble. Only for the brunette to relax when she saw Naruto smirking at her, making Leaf smile happily at seeing him. Naruto, said Leaf happily as she ran over and hugged him, which the whiskered blonde returned. It's good to see you too, Leaf. Naruto said, happy to see his friend again. You too, but I didn't think you'd still be in Pewter City. I thought you'd be halfway to Cerulean by now. Leaf said, pulling back and smiling at him. I would be, but when I challenged the gym leader, I ended up losing since one of the attacks I was teaching Charmander failed. But I came really close to winning. Replied Naruto, making Leaf wince slightly. Ouch, sorry to hear that. I haven't actually challenged the gym leader yet, I've been focusing on training my Pokémon. Said Leaf, knowing that while Bulbasaur and Bellsprout would have the type advantage, she wanted to make sure they were fully prepared. And thinking of new scam ideas. Naruto stated with a smirk, which Leaf returned. You know me so well. And if I'd known you were still here, we could have thought of new ideas together like we used to. Leaf replied, remembering how they used to brainstorm new ideas for scams and pranks when they were younger. Given how both of them could be very mischievous, cunning, and quick-witted with her scams and Naruto's tendency to prank people. It led them to becoming fast friends, along with working together a lot on scams and pranks. With Naruto admitting that compared to Ash and Gary, he was the closest with Leaf thanks to how similar they are. Plus, there were times where Naruto saw that Leaf seemed like the only person who could match him in unpredictability, never knowing what she'll do next sometimes. Yeah. I'm guessing that some of those were actual Pokeballs that were just painted. Said Naruto. Naturally, but with a few surprise ones thrown in, since I may have put in a few fakes that were filled with sleeping powder from Bulbasaur and I put a lot of sleep powder into them. So, say the trainer isn't far enough away, Leaf said as she trailed off. Then the Pokémon won't be the only one going nighty-night. Nice one. Naruto said, knowing that'll definitely be a surprise. Yeah, I know. Now come on, all that work has made me hungry. said Leaf, grabbing Naruto by the hand and running towards the Pokémon Center for lunch. What if Naruto used Charmander? Start Pokémon journey end here and thanks for watching my video till the end.